Welcome one, welcome all, welcome back to the cinematic wastelands, all you film exiles, you gangsters, you rebels, you scoundrels, you anti-establishment riotous exiles. All right, so our schedule has been a bit lacking for the past 2 weeks, but we're reunited and it feels so good. It feels really good to be here for ENN 34. And boy, do we have a doozy, a good one, a meaty, hearty, filling episode. I hope you brought your appetite. We got so much good content to discuss this week. And thankfully, I ain't got to be alone. I got my road warriors with me, my homies, my homeboys for life. First off, address him as Your Highness to the maximum. It's Christian. Hey, Christian.
Wow. Okay, my royal subjects.
I bow to your greatness.
Bow before me. You're not worthy. You're not worthy.
All right, welcome to the podcast. And also we have a fear him. You are right to fear him because he brings the negativity and the toxicity all day, every day. It's tall.
Shit. I'm a ray of sunshine, guys. What are you talking about? I'm fired up to be here with you. Yeah, jubilant to have another opportunity to discuss film with you guys tonight, especially with His Majesty Christian. So looking forward to it, guys.
Absolutely.
I bless you.
All right, guys. I'm really excited about this one right here. As you can hear in my voice, I can't wait. Here's our rundown of topics for the day. We're going to start first with a bang. Ray Fisher excoriates Joss Whedon in a series of tweets. We're going to do a deep dive into what his tweets mean, how it relates to, bigger issues. That's going to be interesting to talk about. Then Zack Snyder gave us an impromptu Q&A on VERO. So we're going to, talk about his responses to a bunch of questions and, what that means for DC films and for his upcoming projects. And then in some exciting or less exciting news, depending on your perspective, Margot Robbie is going to be starring in a film that's going to reboot the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise. So that's exciting. And in our coming soon section, where we react to trailers, we're going to react to An American Pickle, we're going to react to The Tax Collector, and The Old Guard, second trailer. And without further ado, let's get right into it. So our first topic of the day, Ray Fisher blasts Joss Whedon with hot magma and hellfire. So this is the timeline of his tweets. So on the 29th of June, Ray Fisher posts a clip of a video of him at Comic-Con where he was talking about Zack Snyder being off the Justice League project and Joss Whedon coming on board. And in that clip, he said something to the effect of Joss Whedon, the film is in capable hands. They're very minor reshoots, and Joss Whedon is doing a good job, and they all, kind of support him and have confidence. And his tweet was, "I'd like to take a moment to forcefully retract every bit of this statement." So that got, social media buzzing, first. Then 2 or 3 days later, on the 1st of July, he tweeted again, further clarity. He says, "Joss Whedon's on-set treatment of the cast and crew of Justice League was gross, abusive, unprofessional, and completely unacceptable. He was enabled in many ways by Jeff Johns and John Berg." Then he ended it with accountability over entertainment. So in that tweet, not only did he blast Joss Whedon, but he also named Jeff Johns and John Berg, the two producers on that project. Then 2 days later again, on the 3rd of July, he tweeted, "I believe Kaiko and Charisma Carpenter." Now, these are two ladies who have reported Joss Whedon for abuse of power, entangled with sort of and a sexual assault, a sexual misconduct. Let's not say assault. But basically in the same vein, gross behavior, abusive behavior, unprofessional behavior. Then on the 5th of July, Ray Fisher tweeted, "God bless at that Kevin Smith." And that's Kevin Smith's Twitter handle, because Kevin Smith, on his podcast, Fat Man on Batman, he went into detail and he revealed a couple of things about how Joss Whedon was making fun of Zack Snyder's Snyder Cut on set in front of people who had worked on the film and people who were passionate about that project. Then on the 6th of July, which is today, as of this recording, Ray Fisher also tweeted, "Some things are more important than self-preservation, accountability over entertainment." So, guys, Ray Fisher, he went in, took the gloves off, white-knuckled it, and really went in on Joss Whedon, also Jeff Johns and John Berg. So let's start with Christian, because Christian might have the most pleasant things to say about Joss Whedon, since he's a Marvel fan, and Joss Whedon was highly influential on the Marvel Cinematic Universe. How does this meet you as someone who appreciated his work on a professional level, at least? What do you think of this series of tweets?
Disappointing, and in some ways maybe not even super surprising. I do remember that when it was said that he was going to be doing a Batgirl movie, that there were some snickers online. I saw people making comments like, "That's the fucking guy that's going to be making Batgirl? You got to be kidding me." And I know just from reading a couple things about Whedon in the past that apparently he's done a few questionable things, and some of the stuff that he writes in when he tries to force in some feminist things into his movies, it's kind of like a virtue signaling kind of thing. And you're right, by the way, Lupe. He did great things with the Avengers. I think he did. And if what's said about him is true, and he was tearing down Snyder's version of the movie, that's pretty fucked up considering what happened to him during Age of Ultron. If you guys remember what happened with Age of Ultron, he was pissed to high heaven that Feige and the rest of Disney Marvel Studios were trying to force the future of Phase 3 onto him, saying that he had to force scenes into that movie. There were things that he had to do to make Tony Stark more important. There were things about Ragnarok that he had to force into that movie. And apparently that pissed him off to high heaven, and he wanted to leave Marvel because of that. And here he is in a similar situation. And this time he's actually tearing down somebody else's legacy. Whether you like the Snyderverse or not, look, it's got very vocal fans. Destroying the man's legacy when he suffered a tragedy is wrong. And apparently it looks like it came from the top. I'll be honest with you guys. I'm just going to tell it like it is. I've been a little done with the behind the scenes drama of Justice League for a little while now. I've just been done with the behind. I want to see the cut. I'm a comic fan. I want to see the cut. I've been on record. I've said it how many times, numerous times. What happened to Zack is wrong. I've said that. It's wrong. But the behind the scenes drama, I've kind of been like, you know what? We need to just move on. That's it. Let's just move forward. Let's come together. Let's do that. That being said, my feeling has always been like with Josh, it was like, whatever, he was being a company man. He came in, he made his paycheck. They said to Josh, look, rip this up, do what you got to do. And that's that. And the stories that you guys have told me and the stories that I've seen now, especially in recent months and over the last year or so, has really changed my opinion on the guy. He's not just some guy to me now that maybe came in and was told by Warner Brothers what to do. He seemed to revel. Like he seemed to enjoy what was happening. That's really disappointing. You're right, Lupe. On a professional level, do I like what he did with the first Avengers and everything? Yeah. And that's not all him. I think we know that. We know that it's a team over there at Marvel. They do everything all in, it's not just the director's vision. But a lot of the little quippy stuff that he did and the jump cuts from the action scenes back and forth, that's all him. And I think there was a lot of good stuff with him and Buffy and everything. But man, like Charisma Carpenter coming out and saying that, like, he basically wanted to fire her because she got pregnant and all that shit. Man, that's dirty. Yeah. It's just dirty. And it goes hand in hand with, like I told you guys, the shit that I heard about, like when it was said that he was going to get Batgirl, and people were like, that's the guy that's getting Batgirl. Like, it's just very disappointing. And I know you guys are not surprised by any of this, and I'm sure the Snyder Cut followers that hear me on this are going to laugh and be like, Chris, you shouldn't be surprised at all this. But it's not that I'm surprised because it's Hollywood and whatever, but I'm just disappointed. But what I will say, I'll end it on this and I'll throw it back to you guys. I'm glad Ray Fisher said what he said, because I may be getting quote unquote sick of what's going on and hearing about the behind the scenes drama and shit. But if that shit was going down, it needs to be said. Yeah. And I'm glad he said it. And if it was not just done to him, but it was done to Gal Gadot, and it was done now, we're hearing about a young Charisma Carpenter when she was starting her family and all that kind of stuff. And this has been something that's been happening with him going way back. Then this shit has to continue to come out. I'm sorry, it does. And yeah, I might not, maybe I'm getting sick of the drama, but this is no longer drama now. This is something deeper. So this stuff has to come out. So just disappointed is the word. And I hate hearing about this stuff, but you know what, man? It's got to happen now. And it looks, you hear Kevin Smith, it sounds like, I know it's hearsay, but he heard a guy and all that, you know what? He wouldn't be coming out and saying it, would he?
No.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's my take.
All right. Yeah. Very well said. Very sobering take on it. Paul, you're a ray of positivity. So let's hear what you have to say on this one.
Yeah, I'll bring you some positivity about Joss Whedon. No, I'm not going to do that. I don't think it's a shock that he's a creep, right? I mean, I think we all kind of knew that, suspected it. It's interesting that Ray Fisher chose now to come out and call him out. Obviously I'm a little bit biased, being a fan of Snyder and Fisher and wanting to see the Snyder cut and having sort of a disdain for Whedon for what he did, and not being a fan of his filmmaking style to begin with. I didn't like his jokes the first time we saw them in the Avengers movie. I certainly didn't like his jokes being shoehorned into the Snyder cut. And then to hear how he went about it. I mean, we've heard some of these rumors for a while. There's been debate, whether, who was the most at fault. Was it Jeff Johns? Was it Joss Whedon? Was it Toby Emmerich? And then, you get all the Jeff Johns defenders and the Joss Whedon defenders that just want to say, oh, no, blame the execs. It was Kevin Suzahara and maybe Toby Emmerich. But you can't blame poor Jeff Johns, and Joss Whedon was just doing his job. And I think most of us knew that was horseshit. But it's nice to see Ray Fisher call that out and put that argument to rest. I mean, it's pretty clear now that Joss Whedon was the biggest creep of the bunch. I don't think there's anything shocking about what Fisher said. I think he chose his words very carefully. He used a few specific adjectives there that I don't think were accidental. He called him gross, abusive, unprofessional, and called his behavior completely unacceptable. And he also pointed out that he was enabled in many ways by Jeff Johns and John Burke. So I think he was very careful with what he said. I think each of those words has a specific meaning. Now, the one criticism I've heard of Fisher, aside from the fact that you just don't do that in Hollywood, which I don't agree with, is that he wasn't specific. He blasted him with those carefully chosen words, but didn't give specific examples and left a lot of it to speculation. I tend to think we are going to find out more detail, but I mean, we do have a little bit of a sense already of what happened. I mean, we have the Kevin Smith interview, or not interview, but I guess his little piece on Fat Man on Batman, where he talked about his experience talking to the VFX guys that worked on both versions of Solo and both versions of Justice League, and they said there was a lot of tension and frustration because of the way that he was openly criticizing Snyder's work and Snyder's film to the cast that helped create that film, or that version of the film with Snyder. We know that John Berg came out and said that, I guess denied that he enabled it, and said, I know Ray was upset about, us asking him to say booyah, which of course he was upset. I mean, he wanted to treat this character seriously. He wanted to, he went on to say that he was given an opportunity to, I guess, play a role in the development of the character and the Stone family and draw on his own experience. And he wanted to take this seriously and make this a respectful and representative portrayal. And they give him the exact crap he was trying not to do with the cheesy corny booyah line from the cartoon, which I mean, I always thought that was Whedon, and I'm shocked at how many people seem to praise that cringy fan service line in the film. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure that was a very tiny part of it, but I think that's a huge deflection and a disservice to what Fisher was saying to try and assume, or to try and I guess insinuate that's all he's upset about. I think there's obviously a lot more. We heard the Gal Gadot rumors that Whedon, obviously that she refused to do the scene with Ezra Miller falling on her boobs, and they had to use the body double. And we heard a rumor that Whedon had locked her in a room, getting threatened to ruin her career. So, I mean, this stuff's been out for a while. So it's no shock at all he's a creep. It's nice to see Ray Fisher call him out. It's ballsy, and it's kind of out of the blue. Aside from, the fact that we now have the Snyder Cut released, there's been, I guess, some renewed, maybe a renewed sense of obligation to speak out. I think that's come out with some of what's gone on, politically recently. I don't know if that played into it. I don't know if there's some other motivation that we're not aware of in terms of the timing, but I think it's good that he brings it to light. I hope that the rest of the cast supports him. I've seen Karen Bryson come out and support him. I'd like to see some of the others come out and support him, but good for him. I mean, it's ballsy. It's nice to see him stand up for what's right, and I hope this doesn't hurt him. I hope it works in his favor. And I don't know how much more there's to say. Lupe, what do you want to add to it?
Well, I can add a unique perspective to this, and really hone in on the sort of racial undertones going on in all of this. So let's remember that when the beginning of sort of like, our conversations around Black Lives Matter and, white supremacy, racial discrimination, the systems of oppression started, Ray Fisher made a post, Paul, the one that you referred to, and it was about how Zack Snyder and Chris Terrio incorporated Ray Fisher, an actor with no film credits to his name, no big name, a very innocuous neophyte in Hollywood. They incorporated him and brought him into the inner sanctum of creating the character, and they relied on his experiences as a Black person, as being an other, a minority in society, and just interweaving that to make the character more representative, more authentic, less of, just a token, being like a real character, bringing a unique experience to the film, which is something that in terms of everything we talk about in terms of representation is definitely a boon, and they deserve praise for that. That's how you do it. If you're really going to incorporate more people and make your stories more diverse, then you don't just do it just by adding people and making them tokens. They should really be contributing in a very authentic way. So when he made that post, that definitely struck a chord with me, because when Joss Whedon put the hatchet to Justice League, a lot of people, especially minorities, noticed that the main people whose stories got cut out were people of color. Now, whether that was done on purpose or it was subconscious, it is what it is. It's just the facts of the matter. Ray Fisher, people like Ryan Choi, obviously Jason Momoa, he's also a person of color. So that struck a nerve with people like me and people in the fandom. So Ray Fisher bringing that up, it kind of reinforced that, and I knew that there was something beneath what he was saying. So when you come back to this, remember that Karen Bryson supported his tweets, and she added 3 black heart emojis. Now I'll put you guys on, when Black people do the black heart emoji, that has to do with like Black love, or not Black love just between Black people, but in terms of people do it for like black romance, like, you know, sort of like, or black families, that kind of thing. You know, there's this discussion about how positive images of black families and black romances are not shown a lot in the media. So I think for Cyborg's family in the film, with, you know, the father, the mother, you know, he himself, that was something that was kind of very important to three of them, right? Mm-hmm. To the three actors, you know, like, wow, we're gonna, you know, show like this, you know, black family, and that's something that they definitely discussed. The father is the mother is a lecturer, professor. The father is a research professor. The son is, you know, in college, like a star athlete, you know, like, so I'm sure that was that representation was very important to them. So for John Berg and Joss Whedon and Jeff Johns to be asking him to be saying booyah is a slap in the face, because let me explain to people why booyah is not something that he wants to, and not something he should do. Can anyone remember a spoof of these American Pie kind of high school comedies? There was a really good one that had like this black guy, and he was playing on the fact that they will always have a token black guy, and he will always say the cool, punctuate stuff with the cool word like, yeah, damn, that's awesome, booyah. You know? So basically, yeah, that's what the Teen Titans had turned Cyborg into. The black guy that just says the cool punctuations, the cool slangs. And that is a racist stereotype, or a racial stereotype. We don't have to say it's racist. It's a racial stereotype that is not a great way to portray black people. They should have deeper, more meaningful, more authentic stories than just being the black guy that has the cool punctuations. So when John Berg came out to defend himself, saying, "Oh, you know what? It's something that was in the comics or in the Teen Titans," you know, it's like, you're so, like, that was damning to me. That was damning. Like, that's not an excuse. And obviously, Ray Fisher had stated his displeasure and told them why it shouldn't be done. But it's still in the movie. So that means that they actually forced him to do it. And they didn't listen to him like Zack Snyder and Chris Terry would have. So the whole thing is exactly what he's saying. Jeff Johns and John Berg, they definitely enabled Joss Whedon, because if they had done their jobs properly, the stunt of Flash falling into Wonder Woman's boobs and him being forced into being the token black guy that says the cool stuff would not have happened. So I mean, this really confirms everything that we've been saying. And what I've been telling people is, you know, I talked to a lot of Zack's cast and crew. Like, there's several of them that, you know, I talked to in DMs, or, you know, we discuss on the timeline. And I'm telling you, like, these are very good people. They are some of the nicest people. Like, Zack Snyder has had issues with a lot of people, whether it be bloggers and critics and people cyberbullying him, or whether it be the studio or even the Snyder Cut thing that's going on. He never says a bad thing about anyone. And that's how everyone in his sort of, you know, family are, because they're like a family. Like, for them, they're big on loyalty, on honor, they're big on respect. With Jeff Johns, I didn't hear anything about John Berg, but with Jeff Johns in particular and Joss Whedon, that's the first time I've ever heard them say anything negative about anyone. So that was my first hint that something serious had gone on. And when you just look at the film and you listen to interviews and the language and you see what's going on, as I've said, what happened with Justice League was not professional. It struck me as deeply personal. This went beyond, I'm just coming in to do a job. This was targeted erasure of a person's legacy during their time of unspeakable family tragedy. It's completely mind-blowing to me, and that's why for me, I will always be. Let me just finish with.
No, go ahead.
I will always be upset at Jeff Johns. I really don't care about John Burke. He should just go away. At Jeff Johns and Joss Whedon, until they come out and they apologize for what they've done, I'm gonna be on their necks. They're the only creators that I vocally attack, because what they did was not professional. It was personal, and they definitely, the scales of karma have to be balanced. Like, what they did was just, it was absolutely beyond the pale. And I'm very happy that Ray Fisher came out and spoke on this. But go ahead, Christian.
No, and I apologize for interrupting you, Lupe. I'm sorry about that. I well said, number one, and I think, and this is where I'll shut up. That's what, to me, I think is so disappointing. Whedon should know better. Like, he should know better. It happened to him. That's what he complained. He bitched. He was in the press saying they did this to me. They did that. I can't look at them anymore. I can't be. There were all kinds of shit he said about Marvel and said about everybody over there. And he didn't want to be. And then he goes off and basically does the same thing that was done to him. It's just, by the way, he didn't have a family tragedy when it happened to him. He didn't have a daughter kill herself when it happened to him. So it's just, I don't get it. And the other thing, I just wanted to make sure I clarified. I think I did, but I want to make sure I clarified. Even though I may, like, I'm like, oh my God, the drama, and I'm rolling my eyes. This is not drama to me. This is actually something I really felt was important. I was happy Ray put it out there. I understand that he could potentially get blackballed by people. Fuck that. I really hope it doesn't happen to him and he doesn't get blackballed by anybody, because I think it was important. Like, stuff like this has to come out. If this leads to stories about what happened to Charisma Carpenter, and it leads to other stories, and if there's a sexist/racist, streak through this whole thing, which we've seen in some of Whedon's stuff, there's definitely a sexist streak in it.
And racist as well.
Yeah,
don't forget that
absolutely.
It was an issue with the Avengers and even the Age of Ultron or whatever, that people were complaining that, the Marvel is too, like, the MCU is too white. Like, go and look at the Avengers, like that picture of them together, and you're just like, this is the whitest thing I have ever seen. And it might be subconscious. I'm not saying like he's a virulent, outright racist, but sometimes that's what these biases are, right? It's subconscious bias to the point where he probably didn't even, he's like a black person or an Asian person or a Hispanic, he can't even imagine it. Like, it must be mind blowing to him. But go ahead.
The one thing, okay, so I'm just going to jump in. The one thing I would say in defense, and I don't, sorry, I shouldn't say in defense because I don't want to defend Whedon on this, but if he's mandated to cut a 3.5-hour movie down to 2 hours, you're going to cut supporting characters, and he cut a ton of supporting characters. Now, I think this is a testament to Zack Snyder's casting, that so many of his supporting characters were people of color. It just speaks to the diversity of his casting.
But let me correct you on something.
Yeah.
Cyborg is not a supporting character in Zack Snyder's movie.
I'm not talking about cutting him. I'm talking about his family. I'm talking about Iris
exactly.
West. I'm talking about Ryan Choi.
Exactly. But think about it though, from what you're saying, Zack Snyder specifically said Cyborg is the heart of the movie.
Oh yeah, no question about it. We basically had a Cyborg origin story and a Justice League movie blended, and he stripped out the Cyborg origin story and everything that went with it. Yeah, no, I don't want this to sound like a defense of Joss Whedon. I'm just playing devil's advocate and saying, you could also see this as him cutting supporting characters, and all those supporting characters happen to be a diverse group where. As I say, you can also look at that as a testament to the diversity of the casting Snyder does. But if he's trying to streamline a movie and cut it in half, essentially, you are going to cut supporting characters, and all those supporting characters did happen to be or most of them at least, happen to be people of color. I mean, you do have Volko in there, Willem Dafoe. He's white. He was cut. So it wasn't exclusively people of color, but I mean, what was it, like 7 out of 8? I mean, I don't know how many exactly he cut, but a lot of them. Well, and Ray Porter obviously was cut
Right.
as well.
Right.
But I mean, the majority were people of color that were cut.
Yeah, but if he had just kept the main character, the heart of the movie, which is Cyborg, and then even had cut out other supporting characters, then we could make a better case for him. But Cyborg is not a supporting character in the.
He got turned into one.
Yeah, but
that's the problem. Yeah,
because I think he probably just looked at it and it blew his mind. Like he couldn't even imagine. Like Joss Whedon would never make a Justice League movie and Cyborg would be the heart of it. It's not even going to cross his mind. Mm-hmm. It's not even in the realm of possibility for some. And I'm not saying he's.
No, I totally know what you're saying. I mean, he probably came in. He probably came in, and they probably said to him, "How are you going to fix this?" And he said, "Oh boy, I know what I can cut."
Exactly.
And yeah, I as I say, I don't want this to come across as a defense of Whedon.
No, I know what you mean.
Just playing devil's advocate because I think you could look at it that way, but yeah, I mean, there's no question.
I know what you mean because I don't want it to come up like I'm flat out saying, "Oh, Joss Whedon is a racist." It's just that sometimes some of these things they're subconscious. But at what point are we going to be making excuses for people's subconscious biases? You know.
Well, the other thing I want to point out. Sorry, Lupe, go ahead. And there's just one other point I wanted to make. Go ahead and finish.
No. That's just it. It's just at some point we have to hold people accountable for their subconscious biases and say and sort of demand that people have to do better. You know.
Yep, absolutely. And the other thing I was going to say is that they were so panicked and so desperate to turn Snyder's movie into a cookie cutter fan service film that it would not shock me at all if they were deathly afraid of having a black lead character heart of the film, because this was before Black Panther, right? Mm-hmm. They would have beat Black Panther to the punch.
Yeah.
In terms of representation, but they didn't know how successful that was going to be, and they didn't have the brand power that the MCU had, and I mean they very well could have made a conscious.
Let me.
They did introduce Black Panther in Civil War, and he was extremely well received.
But I mean, his solo movie hadn't come out where he was the solo lead, and they may have flat out made a conscious decision to strip that element because they weren't confident about how it would be received. So I mean, that could go ahead.
Yeah, before you move on, don't forget also Rick Famuyiwa was chased off his movie. Remember that? I remember that one of the reasons why, I'm telling you, like, I know that one of the reasons why was because he was making a Flash movie, but he was going to make it a very diverse and inclusive one with Cyborg and with issues pertaining to race and otherness and all that stuff. Because in his exit statement, he mentioned something about having a multi-generational perspective and a personal perspective, and also when Black Panther came out, he was roasting Justice League in DC. I'm telling you, and he was roasting it in reference to it being a black film, basically a film with a majority black cast. So what you're saying in terms of them not having the imagination, having the subconscious bias against making a diverse film, using excuses of, it's not saying things like the things we always hear, it's not going to make money or whatever. It all supports what you're saying.
Yeah, no, there's definitely an incriminating set of circumstantial evidence to point in that direction for sure. Yeah. That would have been a part of the motivation and not necessarily out of keeping with what we've seen from Whedon's characters. So unfortunate, but it's good that it's being brought to light, and hopefully it'll have some positive long-term effect and hopefully won't have negative repercussion to Ray Fisher himself.
Yeah, and I mean, if that's the kind of stuff that continues to come out, by the way, that's like the behind-the-scenes drama, quote unquote, that I think needs to come out. This, like, there was a rewrite here. I didn't like the VFX here. I didn't like, screw that. But if we're going to talk about that, somebody, if it's going to continue to enforce what we know, and if it's also going to continue to bring out behavior that, let's be honest, is unacceptable, right? It's unacceptable behavior. Then that's okay. Then that's the kind of shit that needs to come out. and I'll repeat what I said before, I do not want to see somebody like Ray Fisher blackballed for that. Absolutely not. I want to see, if anything, people should be congratulating him and said, thank you for having the balls, to come out and say that. And where there's smoke, there's fire, guys. I understand that you can't turn around all the time and just everything you see, you can just blanket blame. But where there's smoke, there's fire.
Yeah. And we'll end on this note. I think it's quite ironic that over the years we've seen, bloggers and, SJW media and critic accuse Zack Snyder of being this sexist, ultra-conservative, alt-right, Gamergate, racist, homophobic, the personification of everything that's evil.
Fascist Pied Piper.
Exactly. But then they use, Marvel's directors and universe and Kevin Feige and Disney as this counterbalance of, oh, it's so hopeful over there and it's so peace-loving and it's about, love and it's about all these wonderful things. But when you really take a deeper look and you look past just surface, shallow appearances, Zack is a director that has been putting in the work and being more conscientious, and no, I won't say more, but very conscientious and allied to all people from different backgrounds, and making sure that everyone has a seat at the table and is included in this wonderful story and saga that he's telling. I think that's one of the most ironic and most pertinent things that we should take away from this.
Well, and even still to that point, Lupe, it's frustrating to see how many of these talking heads have come to Whedon's defense, have called out what Fisher's done is unprofessional, or just stay silent when you know damn well they would not stay silent if they could get something like this on Snyder.
Yep.
You know, it's the double standard and the hypocrisy that it's infuriating.
Yeah. That's why we make
nothing
the joke,
new,
like,
but it's infuriating.
Yeah, that's why we make the joke, like, how much is Marvel paying them? Like, when we say, like, how much is Marvel paying them? It's a joke, but at the same time, there's like a hint of truth to it in terms of like why, like, what is it that Marvel has on you? Like, if Marvel is not paying them, it's even worse for them to be doing this. It's appalling. All right, so that's our discussion on that. Hopefully, Ray Fisher will go from strength to strength. He's a great actor. And trust me, guys, like, I know that when the Snyder Cut comes out and we see the job he's done, that we're going to be very impressed. I think he's a young star. He has amazing screen presence, and we're finally going to be able to see all that hard work that he's put into it. The DC fandom is going to have an event tweeting in support of Ray Fisher and giving him, a bit of shine and some love on Friday. So anyone listening to this, go to the RT Snyder Cut account. Also, Fiona Zhang's account is Fuku Jang, and search for the details on that. But it's going to be on Friday, and it's going to be a lot of tweets in support of his character, Cyborg, and Ray Fisher as a man. All right, so on to our next topic of the day, and Zach got chatty as fuck on VERO, and he gifted us with an impromptu Q&A out of nowhere. So on the 4th of July, Zach posted in celebration of BVS Ultimate Edition finally arriving on HBO Max. He had some social media posts. He had, Batman in the gorgeous, super gangster, but also post-apocalyptic GQ fashion model trench coat. And it said something to the effect of, yes, he's real, and, he's on HBO Max, of course. And that day, Zach was just chatty. So many people asked him many questions, and he just fired off answers where he could. So we're going to dissect these answers. We're going to react to them. There's quite a bit of information here, and I think it's something really cool that we can get to. All right, so the first one was a question from at Great Kong Lao. I like that username. Mortal Kombat in the house. Kong Lao said, "Awesome picture, but I love the Ultimate Edition for all the extra Clark, Lois, and Superman content. It was breathtaking and heartbreaking that all those scenes didn't make it to the big screen. And I don't want to sound greedy, but can we expect another teaser for the Snyder Cut before August 22nd? And August 22nd is a DC fandom event where we're expecting like a full trailer." And Zach replied saying, "There might be something coming." So, guys, what do you think? What do you think is coming? When do you think it's coming? What do you expect? What do you want? Let's start with Paul.
I'm going to assume that's a teaser of some sort at JusticeCon, July 25th, 26th. I'm not sure if we have all the details on that yet. I mean, it's a fan-driven online panel where Snyder, Ray Porter, Jay Oliva, and others are going to be attending. So I'm assuming that he's going to share something there, presumably video, and I'm guessing teaser length. That would be my guess. I mean, I have no knowledge whatsoever, but that's what I'm assuming that means. What do you guys think?
I concur. I think that's the most likely, because I think I heard that the recent teaser was actually supposed to debut at JusticeCon, but I'm hearing, not sure, that Jason Momoa kind of jumped the gun and just threw it out there. Maybe he had no idea or something. So Zach might package something else for that event. Yeah, I'm thinking it could be that, but if it's not that, then it could be stuff like and some more images or something like that. But from what he says, it's the question specifically said another teaser, and Zach said, he's hinting that yes, there could be something. So I'm thinking that the date could be that JusticeCon. Christian, what do you think?
Zach is funny. He makes me laugh. He does. I might not like all of his movies, but he just seems cool as shit when he starts talking. He rubs you the right way when he knows how to be a marketer. It's funny. So I actually a lot of times when I read this stuff, I just smile because it just seems like he's cool, and you don't see a lot of guys interacting with their fandom like that. We do know he's balls deep in VFX. Right, so he's going crazy with that right now. So I agree with you guys. I know, Lupe, you want to go through a bunch of these, so I'll try to keep my opinion short. I'm with you guys. It's probably something for the July 25th, 26th event. And since he's going crazy with VFX, I think you're going to get another teaser. Why the hell not? That's what I think.
Absolutely. All right. So the next one is someone made a poster or logo for the Snyderverse, which is sort of the street slang for Zack Snyder's DCEU saga, and he asked Zack to look at it. Zack said it's awesome. So, guys, do you think that that's like so? I mean, in conjunction to this, someone asked him and said, something to the effect of asking about the Snyderverse, and Zack said, we're already deep in it. So, guys, do you think that the Snyderverse is going to continue? Is it gonna be like a big thing, or what do you think he meant by, one, approving of the logo, saying it's awesome and actually is a nice logo, and also saying, we're already deep in the Snyderverse? What do you guys think of that? Let's start with Christian.
Well, first of all, cool that he interacts with a fan like that and says, "Hey, keep your, creative streak going. Let me fucking see more. Bring it on." So I think that part is cool. Second of all, too, I know everybody's fucking sick of hearing me saying it. I know it, and I say it over and over again that Warner Brothers chucks shit against the wall and they see if it sticks. But I'm partially intrigued if they're going to if they're going to continue and have HBO Max be the place where you get a Snyderverse, and the CW is where you get the corny verse, and the DCEU on the screen is where you get another kind of verse. That's Infinite Earths. That's a comic fan's dream. That's the shit. That's awesome. So maybe I don't know Zach like you guys do, and definitely Lupe. I don't know him, whatever. I haven't been close to him like people in the fandom have been. So I can never pretend to know what's going through the man's brain. However, why would his end goal not want to be give me a Snyderverse, right? How could that not be on his brain? So whether HBO Max has it on their brain is a different story, and they probably want to see what happens with the Snyder Cut first and how excited people get. Do their subscriptions go up? Blah, 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 all of that. But come on, man, that's got to be in his brain, right? It has to be. Yeah, it's got to be. So I think it's really, it's cool. You interact with the fan, you give him a 2 thumbs up, and then you dangle another little carrot there that says, we're in it now, man. So and you get infinite Earths, and now you have a true DC universe, don't you? Yep.
All right. So Paul, what do you think?
I don't have a lot to add. I think there's I don't think this reply itself means a ton. Like, I think he's just saying the logo looks cool, and you're already deep in it. Well, yeah, I mean, we're past Man of Steel, we're past BVSUE, and we're well on our way to getting Zack Snyder's Justice League, either in series form, it looks like, or some extended version of his film. Now, that being said, I don't think it's a done deal necessarily that we're going to get more Snyderverse, but I think HBO Max must have it in their minds that if this is well received, which I hope it will be, and I think it will be, that they're going to continue with it, right? Like, I think they must have that door open, and like Christian said, I'm sure they're looking at the response to this, and if the response is positive, I have to believe there's a plan in place to get you more. So I think there's a very good chance that the Snyderverse could be alive and well and ongoing. But going back to these specific replies, I think he's just saying that he likes the logo and that we're already in the Snyderverse. But hey, who knows? I didn't think we were going to get more than the 214 either. So I've been wrong before, and hey, we've been getting a lot of good news lately. So let's
He's
just
very coy.
He
plays it. Yeah, he knows how to play it. He's a good marketer.
Absolutely, like that's one thing. Like, Christian, you mentioned that, it just reminds me, when Zack was out of the DCEU, the level of excitement was low. Zack is an underrated hype man. Like, remember every time he drops a trailer? I mean, this guy drops like just a simple picture, and it breaks the internet, has people speculating. When he was out of the DCEU, there was that level of hype was gone. That level of hype that will match Marvel movies, where you have this, all right, DC's doing this, and Marvel, it was just basically Marvel was doing their thing, and DC was just, trying.
Do you remember the "Tell Me, Do You Bleed" teaser? It's freaking awesome. Dude, it's fucking awesome.
Come on.
It was great.
It was
awesome.
Of course. Like, remember when he just dropped the reveal of Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman, or when he dropped the reveal of Aquaman, with his tattoos, and like, he breaks the internet. Like, this is what he's known to do. So he's well versed. He's really an exhibitionist. He's well versed in doing these things. So let's move on to the next question. This one is from Massimiliano Uriel. It's okay. It's Massimiliano Uriel. And he says to Zach, one question about the Nightmare. Why does Superman have the red and blue suit and not the black one? That's a very good question, one I also had. So Zach replies, when he succumbs to the anti-life, he returns to the red and blue suit. And then he further expatiates on it when someone asks him, Brian Zenna asks him, so the anti-life suits goes back to the diplomatic red and blue colors. Then it's a journey to realize what those colors truly represent. And Zach says yes. So let's start with Paul. Paul, what do you think of this reveal?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, because that was a question, right? Is how, if he comes back in the black suit, how does he end up in the red and blue in the Nightmare? So it's interesting to have it's well, I mean, you always give Snyder the benefit of the doubt that there's a plan and that he's going to explain that, or at least give you the clues to figure it out. And it's still you're still gonna have to sell me on where I guess how and at what point he gets influenced by the anti-life equation and then says, hey, you know what, I think I want my red and blue suit back. I'm sure there's a reason for it. I'm curious to see what it is. Then the journey back to the second tweet, I forget the exact wording, Lupe. I'm sorry, I don't have the right in front of me. But
so basically, he says, so anti-life suits goes back to diplomatic red and blue colors. Then it's a journey to realize what those colors truly represent.
You know what? I'm one of these people that doesn't give a shit about the red and blue representing anything. I think that's such a load of horse shit. But you know. Some people see the colors representing something. Red and blue mean nothing to me, so it's the traditional color. If that means something to some fans, great, good for them. So I'll leave that one to you. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, let me go ahead and with this one. I guess for Zack, the colors probably don't mean as much in terms of we assign meaning to things. That's what human beings do, right? If human beings thought that red means happiness, then that's what it will mean. And if another set of people think that red means anger, then it does. If another set of people think red means diplomacy, then it does. So I think that assigning meaning to the colors is quite arbitrary and probably not what Zack is thinking about. But I think what the colors represent are probably his state of being in terms of he changes one way, and then going back to the red and blue just means he's going back to who he was before. And I think
he's already in the red and blue and the nightmare, and the black suit is just a Helix suit. It's not a sign of his mood or his demeanor. Which I think a lot of people misinterpret. So I have no doubt that this is going to be handled well. I just think sometimes people read too much into it or assign meaning to it that maybe wasn't intended. But who knows? We'll find out, right?
I think the good thing about it is that this means there's a lot more story there. There's a lot more nightmare world stuff for us to see, right?
You're right. That's the main best piece of this news. Yeah,
absolutely.
I love the nightmare. More nightmare, the better.
More. Yep. Christian, what do you think?
Yeah, I think I'm with Paul on that one. I think sometimes people want to read a little too deep into that stuff. So I agree with him. It's like, and I don't think for that, again, I don't know Zack, but I think for him, it's not as important as the story. Like the black suit is just the regeneration matrix. That's it. And I know Warner Brothers has had a hard on for that black suit for a long time, even pre-Zack, but it's just the regeneration matrix. And then the anti-life equation comes into play. Darkseid can take over sentient beings and can really screw with their heads and everything. And it's just, that would mean something different. As you noticed in that scene, his soldiers are all wearing the stylized S on their shoulders and everything like that. There's so much more going on there. So I know people focus on that crap, and I get it. I'm a comic fan too, but that's not what people need to be focusing on. I think people need to be focusing on Darkseid, Apocalypse, anti-life equation. That's the shit you guys got to focus on.
Absolutely.
Like, what happens to Kal-El in that time that turns him into that? What future is Flash trying to prevent? All that stuff. That's the kind of stuff that you need to focus on. And that's what's so cool about like his answer. His answer is, whether you like, what Zack, his execution, all that shit, the guy's a nerd just like us, and he's got all that crap in his brain. So thank you. There's a deeper story here. So yeah, I'm with Paul and you guys on that one. I think the color of the suit shouldn't matter nearly as much of the fact that he was going deep into Darkseid legacy here and deep into Darkseid lore. Yeah,
absolutely.
The color of the suit stuff just strikes me as his smile's not big enough stuff. Like it's that kind of shit to me. So I know some people take the symbolism very seriously, and I know Zack actually values the symbolism quite a bit, but I don't know that this is the kind of symbolism he's necessarily invested in, like you guys pointed out. And I think people falsely assign a lot of things to the color. And that's where I'll leave it.
Yeah. All right. And in a little bit of concert with this, someone asked a question. James Bergeron said a statement, I need more Nightmare Batman in the Snyder Cut. And he begs, like 3 begging arms, like, please. And Zack says, we all do. So that points to the fact that we're getting more Nightmare stuff, and I'm so excited about that. I also think that from what we've been hearing recently, there's a bit of a rumor, but it's unsubstantiated, that Ben Affleck just signed his HBO Max Batman contract. I think that has to do with shooting more for the Snyder cut.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Zack used a picture of Nightmare Batman for this. Zack doesn't do things just haphazardly.
Well,
for the HBO Max celebration, he used a picture of Batfleck in the post-apocalyptic world, and
Batfleck.
He says, of course he's real. He's on HBO Max, which is the exact phraseology he used when he said the Snyder Cut was real. He said, of course it's real. Like, it's basically the exact same phraseology when people were asking, like, oh, is the Snyder Cut real? And it was like, oh, of course it's real. So I think he's hinting that there's gonna be a lot more like Batfleck, like Nightmare stuff, and I think that they're gonna do additional photography to add to it.
So Lupe, that picture that Snyder posted on VERO of Nightmare Batman, you might know better than me. Was that particular picture from BVS, or is that something we haven't seen?
No, we haven't seen that. He was obviously dressed like this. I can't remember. He never held that gun actually in BVS.
He did shoot in BVS though, didn't he?
But he shot with a handgun.
Oh yeah, I guess he did. I gotta see. Now you're gonna make me rewatch it. I thought you're probably right.
He shot with the handgun. Like we never saw Batman from this angle. So this is a picture that he just had, liner. But this is not a new sort of like picture, because I know that this is from the set. It definitely took many pictures from different angles or whatever. But I'm just saying, like, people, like, we know Zack. Everything he does is targeted, it's on purpose, and there's meaning behind it. So him using, Nightmare Batman is not mistaken, and the language he's using, of course he's real, he's on HBO Max. Why the hell are you saying of course he's real? Nobody ever said he's fake. You get what I'm saying? So you have to look at it and say, okay, like, what is, like, Zack, what are you hinting at? What are you trying to communicate in your normal subversive, cheeky kind of way?
Well, actually, and I don't know if this is related in any way, but in the Justice League trailers, was it Cyborg or Flash? Cyborg says, I didn't think you were real, and he said, I'm real when it's useful. Are we under the impression that's a Snyder Ontario line?
Oh, absolutely.
I would think so, right?
Yeah, I think so.
So it could be a play on that potentially.
It's not in Joss Whedon's Justice League movie.
It didn't even make the cut. That's right.
Nope.
Yeah.
No, it did not. It did not make the cut. It didn't. And even Ray Fisher was recently just lauding that dialogue exchange and talking about how it seems mundane on the surface, but there's a lot going on in terms of Cyborg is a cybernetic half man, half mother box from freaking Apocalypse. And he's telling the Batman that I thought you were a myth. That's how legendary the Batman is in that world. Like, can you imagine, like, someone who's otherworldly telling Batman that, my goodness, I thought you were a myth. I didn't think you could be real, So yes, that's one of that's the level of writing that we should expect. That good stuff. The chef's kiss. All right. So on to the next one, and the Tanmay Gupta asks Zack. He says, VFX work started, can't wait. And Zack replies, fuck yes, so deep in it. That got me so pumped. Paul, what's your reaction to Zack, saying that they're so deep in VFX work?
That's a strong choice of words, but a great choice of words. I mean, you want him to be deep in it, right? I mean, if he's going to be in the VFX, how else would you rather him be, right? So that's great, because I had no idea what the state of the VFX was at this point. As far as I know, that's the first formal update we've got, and I will take so deep in it as opposed to just getting started or not quite going yet. So I think that's great. I think, as Christian said, it lends some hope that we'll see something new with some new VFX shots, maybe in a teaser, if not, well, certainly I would think by DC Fandom, but maybe even as early as Justice Con if things go well. So great news. Don't know how much more there is to say, but certainly good news. What you guys have anything to add on that? Anything I'm missing?
Christian, what do you think?
I don't think there's a ton I can add. Like I said a few minutes ago, the guy's balls deep in VFX work, and that's fantastic. And that's the kind of stuff that you don't necessarily have to worry about social distancing to do. So that means he can really go crazy with some of that stuff, and his team. And I know he's supervising the whole thing. Like Paul said, I don't think I saw anything that was official before he said this, but I keep reading stuff online where the rumors are happening that he's working on VFX. He's working on VFX. I keep seeing that. So that's really cool that he said that. And it lends more credence to the theory that you could potentially get something that's a little more concrete soon, because the last teaser we got was very vanilla. So it was just like, but this time you might actually get to see something really, really good that he's working on. So, hey, cool. Want to see it?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, for me, it's just, because, with COVID, happening, everyone, wasn't sure or isn't sure about, how people can work, but him saying that they're deep in it, and also thinking, how much time we have before the release of the movie. We're anticipating it's going to release next summer. That's super exciting, because as I've told people, and I'm going to keep telling people over and over again, yes, get your fucking hopes up, because Zack is adding a lot to this movie. You're not just getting what he had before. Like, okay, you know what, the stuff he shot and he showed the studios, all right, he's just going to put a bow on it and give it. No, it's going to be more. There's going to be more footage, more storylines, more everything. Like, he's really going to blow the doors off on this one. And him saying they're deep in it, and I'm so excited. The fact that they're working so hard on it now means that it means that they have a lot of work to do. So they're not just like, taking their time and we're just going slowly and just bit by bit we'll get there. No, they've dived into the deep end, and that's really good for Bowden. So,
hey, guys, sorry, just while we're on the same topic, I remember seeing something a while back that they were going to start to allow shooting again with certain COVID restrictions. I thought it was like June 12th or something. It was a while ago that, and I thought in California, I thought.
Well, California has had their fortunes have reversed.
Okay, so they put a hold on that. That's not like.
It's put a hold on everything.
The states that are the current hotspots, California, Arizona, Texas, there's a bunch of others, have started rolling back. Yeah. Florida, that fucking place. They started rolling back their restriction, their opening. So they're actually moving backwards now. So they've had to do it.
So even like a sort of a strict, by the rules shoot is off the table. That got rolled back.
That's been my understanding. I could be wrong, Lupe. You can correct me, but that was my understanding.
No, you're right. You're right. Like they're not able to resume. They just can't. So anything that you've seen, picking up pace. So for example, like the Batman, those are like in the UK. So if they want to shoot, if they can do stuff on sound stages in the UK, if they really want to meet their deadline, they can do that rather than do anything.
So have you guys been following the Mighty Pegasus account? Because I haven't been watching it closely. I was just curious if he's gone silent. I assume we'd hear if there was any updates, but
I do not follow Mighty
Pegasus. I don't know.
Unless Zach's going to put him on a plane and fly him over to the UK, which I don't even think UK is going to accept Americans right now, right?
Probably
no, they are. Actually, they are now. They are.
Are they?
They're going to go through a bit of a quarantine, and then, but yeah, they started to accept Americans coming in specifically for film production.
The rest of the world should lock us all down. Sorry, I said. just to lock us all down. Sorry.
All right. So our next question, this one has to do with aspect ratio. So at TGC Films says, hey, Zach, is the new aspect ratio of 1.66 expanding from the theatrical's 1.85 ratio, making more use of the 35 negative, or will it just be a little more on top but less on the sides? Can't wait. Okay, so Zach replies, the film was shot in 133, so 1.85 was a crop. I am working on 1.33. So basically, this has to do with aspect ratio. And something I was also wondering, because the aspect ratio for the film is a little bit more boxy, and on TVs, basically you have tiny black bars on the side. It's a weird aspect ratio. It's not quite IMAX, but it's near IMAX, and something new that he was trying. And personally, I didn't think it looked good. But the 1.3 he's referring to is your standard 4:3. Right. So that basically, if you look at any TV that you got, like modern TVs all have that shape, it fills the entire screen. So that basically, it seems like he's formatting it for television screens. Normally, Zack Snyder does like a super wide screen aspect ratio. And it's about 16:9. He usually does. That's one that has the
16:9 is our standard TV size here, Lupe.
Well, that's for HD, right?
Like you're talking 2.35 by 1, right? That's the super wide,
yeah,
right?
You're thinking.
So
yep.
usually he does. Yeah, usually he does. Yeah,
2.35 by 1:1. Yeah.
And so that will have the black bars on top and the black bars at the bottom. That's like his normal style. But for this one, it's going to be formatted to TV. And also in another post, he talked about how they're also shooting on film. So what do you guys think of the presentation of the picture?
Well, my understanding is that 1.85 by 1.85 was what a 16:9 TV, and so that we're going to get thin black bars on the sides, which I think is still accurate. We are going to get a little bit of black on the sides, are we not? Like that's
no
1.66. I don't think 1.66 fills up at least a North American 16:9 TV. But regardless, I'm relieved that he's not cutting anything off the sides. We're going to get more on the top and bottom without him cutting anything off the sides. So regardless of whether I've got a thin black bar on the left and right as opposed to the top and bottom, I as long as we're not losing the width of the picture, I guess I'm okay with it. But if there is bars, it seems like an odd choice. But I don't know. Are you fairly like? So you're under the impression that there's no bars in a 1.66 ratio? Because that's not a standard television ratio, I don't think, is it?
16:9 is 1.77, right?
1.77, yeah.
Yeah. Let me make sure I'm reading this properly. New aspect ratio of 1.66, theatricals 1.85, making.
Because when you have a 1.85, you've got a little black on the top, a little black on the bottom. If you have your 2.35 by 1, you got big black bars top and bottom. And I'm used to the bars on top and bottom. It doesn't bother me at all. The sides is going to be a little weird getting used to, but I assume it'll be the same. At a 1.66, you're probably going to these slivers on the left and right. You probably won't even notice them, to be quite honest.
Yeah. I think he's working with 4:3. I'm sure that he will crop it somehow. Because bars on the side would not be a good look. Bars on the side would not.
Yeah, the bars on the top and the bottom you can probably shrug off and say that's fine. Bars on the top and the bottom. Bars on the side I think would definitely be a weird look. But you think he's doing he's very well aware of the streaming service that it's going to be on. But do you think he's got anything in the back of his mind about a potential physical release for Blu-ray later on?
I don't think so.
Okay, just one.
I guess we'll see. But Blu-ray, that defeats the purpose of having a streaming platform, right?
Yeah, it does.
Like Netflix doesn't release Blu-rays of their stuff, do they?
But HBO puts Game of Thrones on Blu-ray, so
yeah,
I would assume well after its season's complete, which is what I'm expecting with this, right? I have nothing to base it on.
HBO was never set up as a streaming platform. That's not HBO. That's not they're all the way back from premium cable TV. Like they're not.
No, You're right, Lupe. I think this is their thing right now. They are competing with Netflix, Disney Plus, all the rest, right? That's it.
Mhm.
But I'm wondering, I'm just throwing it out there, and that's why I ask you guys, is it
Yeah.
because
I know.
this is DC? You know what I mean? Like, it's a little different, and they have a different fan base. Do you think it's possible they're thinking physical release just because it's DC? Maybe down the line?
I personally, in terms of thinking about strategy and exclusively on HBO Max and having subscribers and having like the number one thing they're looking for is subscribers.
Yeah, you're right.
So anything that can detract from that, I don't think that they will go for. I might be wrong, but if I was to hedge my bets, that's where I'd lean.
Like, if there's anything that could hurt them and people will be like, well, I'm not going to sign up. I'll just wait for the Blu-ray.
Exactly.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
Okay.
But people in the future who are like, you know what, I've been hearing about that Snyder Cut. I want to watch it.
Yeah.
They wouldn't want that person to buy a Blu-ray. They'd want that person to subscribe and
get sucked in. Yeah. I got you. Okay. Cool. All right.
Yeah, they could get my money both ways. So I don't know. We'll wait and see. I'm still hoping for the Blu-ray because I will subscribe and I will also buy the Blu-ray. So if there is one, so we'll see. Time will tell.
Mm-hmm. Then another nice question. Someone says, "Hey boss, want to break Twitter and confirm Steppenwolf has his original design in your Justice League?" And Zack Snyder is like, "Is that not well known?"
Yeah.
So, Christian, what do you think of that?
I thought that was kind of more cheeky and funny than anything else. I mean, he releases so much shit, doesn't he, Zach? I mean, he's constantly releasing crap. So there's always stuff out there. So yeah, I think he wasn't being a smartass in that comment, but I think it was kind of like he was saying, "Have you been paying attention?"
Exactly.
That's kind of how it was. At least that's how it felt to me. I don't know if I'm completely off base, but that's how it felt to me.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. Like, I've always been saying that I love, like, when the theatrical cut of Batman v Superman came out, they released that sort of clip on YouTube, the communion scene. And when I saw Steppenwolf, my mind was blown because I tell you guys, and I say all the time, like, when I was a kid, I was always imagining this sort of real world cinematic live action version of like the New Gods and all these characters that we'd heard about, and how you can make them epic and serious and badass and really cool and something to be taken seriously. And seeing Steppenwolf in that scene, I was like, this is exactly what a new god, quote unquote, would look like. Obviously they've always been drawn in humanoid form, but like, these are aliens that are gods with crazy powers. They will not be humanoid beings. They will, look terrifying and awesome and, all that stuff. So when we now go to Joss Whedon's Justice League and Jeff Johns has come in and they've done all these things and he has a humanoid face and he's just like a really, sort of tall guy, it was such a letdown. And one of the things I was always saying was, please bring back that epic design. So the fact that we're getting that epic design shows that a lot has changed. Because
you're right.
If Zack Snyder was to release Justice League in 2017, his own, even without Joss Whedon having come on board, it would have been the altered version because that was a compromise he made after Batman v Superman. After they started, tone everything down and say kids will get scared and blah 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 blah. So the fact that we're going back to that is another thing that just hints to people that, look, man, we ain't in Kansas no more. Like,
I mean, Steppenwolf is a tough guy to pull off. I apologize for interrupting. Hold your thought, Paul. Don't forget your place. Steppenwolf's a tough character to pull off, and we can talk about how gods might want to make themselves look like us, like Ares would want to make himself look like a human. That's not Steppenwolf, though. Steppenwolf would not give two flying shits about looking like a human being. Absolutely. So the cartoonish way that he appeared in Whedon's Justice League is jarring. When you think about, being an acolyte of Darkseid and everything like that, it's so weird that he came off that way. For me, and you guys might disagree, and that's fine, we could disagree. For me, it actually worked for Infinity War Thanos that he looked so much like Josh Brolin, because Brolin, I thought, brought a human side to that character. He was more interesting in Infinity War than he was in Endgame. He was actually less interesting in Endgame. But that wouldn't work for a guy like Steppenwolf. I don't think that works. Thanos was a different kind of character. And
because
go ahead. Yeah.
The god.
Yeah.
They're old gods. Like this is a race of gods. Thanos is a being, yes, a very, very powerful being, a descendant of Celestials or whatever, but Thanos is a super powerful alien.
Yeah, a cosmic
the
being.
New gods are something completely different.
Yeah, it's something
you don't
almost
want someone
mythical.
called a new god and he looks like, a basketball player.
With something coming out of his chin. So what were you going to say, Paul? I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say, I didn't hate the look of the theatrical one. Like, that's one of those things when I thought that, best case, we were going to be stuck with the compromised Jeff Johns, Joss Whedon version. Or I guess it wasn't the Jeff Johns, Joss Whedon version. It was just the Jeff Johns version that Snyder had compromised on. I could have lived with that. Like, I thought that it actually would have looked okay if the color correction and lighting had been done properly. If they hadn't artificially brightened everything up and made it look so odd in the theatrical cut. I thought Snyder could have disguised that and made it look okay. So this wasn't a big fixation for me, at least from an appearance standpoint. But what I like about this, as Lupe pointed out, it's the alien aspect of it. I mean, you want him to, if you're taking a sci-fi approach to these films, which Snyder has since the first, since Man of Steel, it's consistent and it makes sense that you would have something that looks alien. But more important than that, if Cyborg is half man, half mother box, as Lupe pointed out earlier, and he's got that shingled metal look, well, doesn't it make sense that your Apocalyptians also share that look? Like when you throw that in the trash and make Steppenwolf look like a human that mimicking the Jeff Johns comic book look or whatever comic book look they're mimicking, you lose that whole Apocalyptian connection that's so key to Cyborg's origin and story. So I think just from a story standpoint, it's actually more critical than just from an appearance standpoint that you bring back the original Steppenwolf and give him that shingled metal Apocalyptian look that's going to make it all fit together. So that's, I think, what I'm most excited about in terms of Steppenwolf's original look. And when you look at the concept art, some of it I was kind of lukewarm on, but then there's a couple shots out there that are more detailed that I really like the look of, and I'm hoping that's what we're getting, because some of it looks really good, some of it not so much, and I have faith that we're going to get the good stuff. So I'm just looking forward to seeing that confirmation when we finally get to see Steppenwolf in either a teaser or a trailer, or if we have to wait till the final thing. But I doubt we'll have to wait that long.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so the last comment is an all-encompassing one, and it's from at Dimitri, who asks Zach, since you said Justice League that was supposed to come out in 2017 was all compromised. Oh, what? Well, I've mixed up the questions. Sorry, I apologize. But basically, somebody asked Zach about Justice League that was coming out in 2017. I asked him how much. I asked him that the Snyder Cut, would it be a compromise since, now he got the deal? Did he have to compromise with the studio? And what will it be like in comparison to Justice League that was coming out in 2017? And Zach replied that Justice League that was coming out in 2017 was all compromise, but the Snyder Cut that's coming out in 2021 is no compromise. So what do you guys think about those two statements?
You can't be surprised at that. If I'm not mistaken, you guys can tell me if I'm wrong. The stories I read were that Zach had Justice League ready to go. He bought it to them, and they were like, no, you got to lighten this up. So he was already reworking Justice League. Yep. So he had already compromised by changing it to whatever his version of a light movie was going to be, right? Yep. Whatever his version of the lighter movie was going to be. So whatever that version was before Johns, Whedon, and everybody else took over, that was already going to be a Snyder compromised version. It wasn't going to be exactly what he wanted to show us. It would still be the continuation of Man of Steel and BVS, but it wouldn't be what he wanted. And I always took from the initial announcement of the Snyder Cut that it was going to be Snyder balls through the wall all the way. Like this is me. You're either going to like it or hate it, but this is me. This is my vision. This is HBO Max gave me the power. They empowered my team to do what they want to do. So I'm going to complete it. This is for you and for me and for everyone. Here you go. This is it. So I'm not really shocked by that comment. You know, at least I don't know if you guys are, but that did not surprise me at all when he turned around and said, hey, man, no compromise here. But that was all compromise. I guess the only thing that's a little shocking is that he used the words all compromise. That's like the only thing that's slightly surprising. Because, I mean, you would figure that whatever version of Justice League was coming out before it got chopped to shit was at least, it had a lot of his heart in it. But maybe that's not the case. Maybe he truly felt that, man, I had to compromise even for that version, and that's not me. Yeah.
Paul, what do you think?
Well, you know, the question I'd have for you here is so the question asks, assuming that your cut of Justice League somehow got released back in 2017, how different would it have been from the one we're going to get in 2021? And when Snyder says 2017 all compromise, are we talking about the 214 or are we talking some trimmed down, reduced version of the 214? Because my understanding go ahead, Lupe. What's your thought on that?
I think both. I actually think both.
Because I believed until May 20th that we were getting the 214, you know, and that the 214 was going to be good enough, that it was enough of his vision, maybe slightly compromised, but still mostly his vision. So if we're talking about the 214, to hear that the 214 was all compromised, I get that doesn't reconcile for me. Like I think when he's saying 2017 released in theater would have been all compromised, I think it must, at least personally, I'm taking that as that's a trimmed down version of the 214. But now to know that we're not just getting the 214, we're going to get something that's no compromise. Well, that's a step up from the 214, because I think we all understood from his comments back at SnyderCon, what is it, a year and change ago, that even the 214 was compromised.
Yeah.
So this just reinforces how different this is going to be. And I got to say, I'm still stunned that we're here, because you know, when this whole thing started, we were fighting for the 70 to 80% VFX complete version. Just give us what you got with storyboards, incomplete score, like just give it, put it on a Blu-ray as a special feature disc, and we'll be happy. And then we went to the 214, and then we went, well, maybe we can get the 214 finished. And now look where we are. I mean, it's crazy, right?
Yeah.
But I love to see that it's that he's saying no compromise. I mean, you couldn't ask for anything more. So. And you know, his movies have an intensity to them, and I guess a boundary pushing aspect to them that makes them what they are. And if you don't have that, if you neuter a Snyder movie, is it still a Snyder movie? And this tells me that it's not going to be neutered, and that's big. That's really critical, right? So that's great news.
Exactly. I remember an interview when he was on the press run for Batman v Superman. He said something to the effect of the studio let him make the exact movie he wanted to make. Like there were no compromises. If I can find that interview, I'll put it up on the timeline for everyone to see. Like he actually vocally said that. And obviously for many of us, Batman v Superman is one of our favorite films of all time. Batman v Superman is in my top 5 favorite films of all time. So me hearing that, you know, we're going back to that is such a huge relief. And as you said, Paul, it's so incredible to just see the arc of the story, the arc. And, you know, it's interesting because if Joss Whedon and Jeff Johns hadn't done what they had done, we would not have gotten this. We would have gotten a compromise still from Zack Snyder, but it would have been compromised, because don't forget, he was making a 2-part Justice League epic. And the studio and Jeff Johns and everyone, one, told him to cut the movie down, to cut the 2 parts down to 1. He had to redesign characters to make them less alien looking, less mythological looking, to make them more, you know, more happy, make sure that kids don't get scared. A lot of, you know, the edges had been sanded off. Even the version that he took to the studio, to the 214, they were telling him to even compromise even more on that. And those are the reasons why he basically didn't allow them to do anything more, and that's why they pushed him off the project, because he was unwilling to compromise. So it's fortuitous that things have that, Joss Whedon and Jeff Johns, they took things into their own hands. They usurped him and betrayed him and pushed him off the project, and then they did everything that all the Marvel fans and bloggers and critics who had been loving Marvel movies and saying, "Oh, you guys are doing horrible. You're supposed to do it the way Marvel does. You see how Marvel is doing it. This is why they're successful." They checked off all the boxes, and at the end of the day, the studio and everybody saw the evidence right there. Zack Snyder was right all along. You might not like what he does as much as you like the Marvel movies, but his ideas for DC characters were on point. Everybody who knows comics knows DC is generally darker. That's just a fact. Like, look at the comic book like history. Yes, there have been darkness that's dark on both sides or whatever. Even Iron Man has, like a history with alcoholism, and there's like a bunch of stuff in X-Men that's also dark.
Wolverine is rough.
Yeah, Wolverine, exactly. Daredevil can also be dark.
Oh yeah.
But generally, DC characters more mythological, okay, have sort of more sort of epic sense of scale. Marvel characters are a little bit more grounded and a little bit more, and it has to do with the people who lead the universes, right? You have Spider-Man, in one corner leading one universe, and then on the other hand, you have Batman. Basically, the most popular is Superman and Batman, but Batman is the most popular. But
Batman's
anyway,
one of the saddest characters ever. I mean, he
absolutely.
just is. He's a sad character.
He is.
And he's probably one of the most human too.
Yeah, and Zack Snyder he understood those characters and understood what would really make them sing and what would really make them work in our modern day, context, and make it these modern day mythological epics. So I think the studio saw that, okay, you know what? This guy was right. So and obviously the fact that we came back and we said we want exactly what he was doing. And the fact that even the people who had hated on him for so long couldn't even defend Justice League.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think
they didn't buy tickets, they didn't buy DVDs, they trashed the movie. So him coming back triumphantly, it's one of the most epic. It's like a Hollywood story. It's crazy.
Well, and I think you can see the studio realizing that it's not necessarily the same audience. Snyder's audience isn't the Marvel audience.
Yeah.
But he does have an audience, and it's not a small audience. It's not going to be as big as the Marvel audience because the Marvel audience is made for families. Snyder's not making family-friendly fun. He never has, but there's enough people that like what he does that there's a viable market for his filmmaking. And we're not talking like small art house stuff. We're talking, a pretty big market, right? But when you look at the approach they tried to follow, that's the with the MCU, and you guys talked about Marvel having a few darker characters. Well, look at their darker characters. Where's the Punisher? He's nowhere to be seen. Hulk's a pretty dark character. Well, that didn't last, did it? They turned Hulk into a joke, right? So they've no, but they catered to that particular audience. DC can't go there. To your point about the more epic, mythological, darker characters, you can't take DC's characters to that family-friendly fun place. You just can't without making it a self-aware comedy like Lego Batman, right? Like that's the way you make DC's darker characters family fun is you do it with the Lego movies. They have your self-aware comedy with your Lego movies. Keep it serious, dark, adult, sci-fi in the Snyderverse, and you got an audience. It's not the $2 billion audience, but it's a pretty damn big audience, and you got to cater to that audience you have. I think
it depends on the character, though. Like Batman, you can't do that with, but there's definitely characters in the DC library that you could absolutely do it with if they wanted to. By the way, I'm not advocating for that.
Yeah,
I'm just telling you that. Oh yes, you can.
Well, he had but you've got to have a cohesive universe too.
Exactly,
right?
That's one thing. You also because when you have someone and when you have like the Justice League and you're trying to the Flash is a funny character, let's make this character funny. It starts to clash, and that's one reason why the Marvel Cinematic Universe gets on my nerves. Is because when you start injecting comedic characters The interesting thing is that dark characters don't make something that's comedic dark, but comedic characters make something that's dark comedic. Does that make sense?
I think I follow what you're saying.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is that if you have a universe like Zack Snyder's serious universe, and you add a bunch of comedic characters to lighten it up, it makes it lighter. But if you have a comedic universe like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and you add some serious characters like the Black Panther into it, Thanos, although he's a villain, it doesn't make it darker. It still ends up being quite lighthearted and quite family friendly. So in terms of how you're going to, like, if you were to have a strategy, don't try to force comedy into. You can have characters that are to a degree not as serious as Batman, right? But if you start trying to add comedic characters, what you get is Justice League.
Well, yeah, and I think that's part of the issue and I'm sorry, Paul, I think that's part of the issue too, is the smash up, right? Like you can course correct as time goes on, if you want to call it course correction, that you can do that. But I think if you're starting a universe one way and you decide to drop a nuclear bomb on it and blow it up and go in a different direction, that's pretty wrong. I mean, that's jarring. That's just completely, you're taking a left turn and it doesn't work. Marvel, everybody's like, oh, phase 1 was this so serious. It really wasn't. Watch them again. I just did a Marvel rewatch.
I know it wasn't. I've disagreed with people on that so much.
Yeah, they do that all the time. And it's like,
it wasn't dead serious, but it hadn't crossed the line. For me, Avengers is when it crossed the line. I was the only one who didn't like Avengers, but for me, that's where it lost it.
For me, Thor was not like dead serious. Like there's some cringe jokes in Thor. Like they've always had. Now you can say it got more comedic as it went with Joss Whedon, like even pushing the issue, but it was never
after Guardians of the Galaxy.
It was never a universe that was as serious as stuff Christopher Nolan, like Man of Steel and Batman v Superman. It was never that serious.
Yeah, the Nolanverse and the Snyderverse were built up in a different way, and by the way, who cares? That's fine. It was built up that way. So was the Fox X-Men universe, was built up in a different way too. Of course, they had no idea how to keep their continuity. That's a story for another day. But that's fine that they did that. Again, I think it goes back to the argument too that we've all had. Why make something the only way to make one of these movies or to build up one of these universes? This was something that was unique. You don't have to like it. You don't have to support it. Fine. But this is something that was unique, and to purposely go in and try to tear it down is where I think that's where something truly insidious was going on.
Yeah.
Why purposely? Yeah. Go ahead, Paul.
There's no question. It was a de-Snydering effort. Like it was 100% to de-Snyder the movie, what Whedon was brought in to do, which is incredible. When you're in the third movie in a series and you have a fan base that appreciates what you're doing, never mind the human level, even from a commercial level, it's absurd. But
and BVS didn't do that bad. The movie broke $800 million. We're not talking about a movie that made $300 million.
Right. And even if 65% of the audience liked it and not 100%, well, 65%, 872 million, still a lot of people, a lot of money, right? And you're going to throw those people aside and risk losing them in order to try and grab a larger audience in the third movie of your series? Obviously, it didn't work, right?
Nope.
But I was just going to make one more point that, we talk about the infusion of comedy being so detrimental. Snyder's movies aren't humorless. Man of Steel had some funny, drier, more subtle humor, right? Which worked in the context of that film. It's not like they're humorless. They're just not knee-slapping, corny, snarky bullshit, right?
Yeah, but that's so subjective. You know what? Like you were talking about, you don't like Guardians of the Galaxy. I freaking love both of those movies. But people have said they hated them, and not all the comedy in BVS landed for me. So I knew what they were doing, but I rolled my eyes like, all right. So it's just, but that's what I mean. Like some of that is subjective as well. But I do know what you're trying to say. I do know what you're saying, and I understand where you're coming from. But the biggest thing too is injecting it is the problem. If it's forced and injected, and especially changing what was done and what really, let's be honest, was working. To have this argument to say it wasn't working, coming from an MCU guy, is wrong. Then why did I like the movie? Why did I enjoy it? It worked. It's just, it wasn't what some of those people, quote unquote, wanted. Yeah. And as Paul has pointed out, and he's 100% correct, they go off and cater, and then those people abandoned you anyway, which is ridiculous. Yeah.
And just to piggyback off what you said, Kristen, in terms of when you're building your universe in a particular way, and then you start to course correct, to explain what I was saying further. If you're building a universe based on seriousness, you're building a universe based on lightheartedness. It's easier and more cohesive to add seriousness to the lighthearted one than it is to add comedy to the serious one.
Oh, I would agree with that. I think it seems more natural, doesn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the mistake that they made, and where even I was quite open to having more light-hearted characters sort of like mingle with the Snyder universe. But after seeing Shazam, after seeing some of the things that Joss Whedon was doing with the Flash in Justice League, they have to be very, very careful. If I had my way, I would have the entire cinematic universe to be quite serious and quite epic with humor that's appropriate. So, for example, I thought Suicide Squad was okay. I also think Birds of Prey is okay, as long as it's kind of like dark humor that kind of fits with a darker universe, but nothing lighthearted, slapstick, as Paul said, kind of sophomore humor. So that's what I meant to say. That when you add in darkness to lightness, it works better. But when you're adding lightness to darkness, then things start to shake. So.
And on a macro, you guys are both correct, by the way. The DC universe as a whole, just if you're looking macro on down, they are darker than Marvel. Their characters are darker. They're more mythological. You guys were talking about gods, even Diana. I mean, she's been in some pretty lighthearted comics over the years. She really has. But some of her best comics are not that way. And I'm reading a series right now that you guys might want to check. It's called Dead Earth. It's Wonder Woman Dead Earth, and it's about her waking up in a post-apocalyptic nightmare. And it's really a fantastic story. So they're that's how they are. I mean, Batman is one of the best characters out there, and he's also one of the darkest characters out there too. And he's deep. So yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that wraps it up for Zach's Q&A. There were a few other questions in there. You can find them on Twitter, but we thought those were the most relevant ones. We're looking forward to whatever else is in store. And
Lupe, you missed one of the ones that was most important to me. Could I just touch on it real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Someone asked him whether Jonathan Kent was going to be making another appearance, and he gave him the wink. And I love the Jonathan Kent scenes. Those to me, they're the emotional heart to the movie. To me, like they are my favorite non-action scenes. I would say in the first two movies. So I was pretty relieved to see that sort of confirmed there.
Yeah, his relationship with Jonathan is so important. Yeah. Sorry, Lupe.
Kevin Costner is an awesome actor. Like he's so good. He is so good. His screen presence, there is he brings a tenderness and an emotional vulnerability to the role, at the same time being strong and wise and reliable. It's a balance that is that's very, very it's hard to pull off. You don't see a lot someone being as tender as that, but also having this inner strength at the same time. And that's why every single scene with him is very powerful, very powerful. And those are the moments that really debunk the myth that Zack Snyder's movies have no heart or they have no emotional warmth to them, and it's just like
and the number of people that misinterpret those scenes or take words out of context, or just it baffles. It seems so disingenuous because those scenes make so much sense to me, and they have so much heart and so much emotion, and for people to just rail on those scenes like they're so ill-conceived and so unnatural, it just seems disingenuous, because to me those are just incredible scenes, and they really do. They're the emotional heart of the movie. Like when I found myself tearing up in those movies, it's those scenes, always the Jonathan Kent scenes. So to have that loop closed in this next one, or continued, I think is going to be important to this film. So I'm really looking forward to that.
thing. Okay, so let's move on to our next topic, and we're going to talk about the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise. Great news or good news. Margot Robbie and Christina Hudson, the duo who brought us Birds of Prey, are going to be reteaming for a Pirates of the Caribbean reboot / spinoff. Not 100% sure what it is. Now, this project is separate from the already announced franchise reboot being developed by Pirates writer Ted Elliott and Chernobyl creator Craig Mazin. That one features Karen Gillan as another female pirate. I mean, this is a massive franchise that was built on the work of Johnny Depp as Captain Jack Sparrow. The movie's grossed over $4.5 billion worldwide, but as it stands now, in terms of Johnny Depp's involvement in either of these projects, official word has been very elusive, and we just have to assume that the studio is like, that's a no for me, dog, right now. So, what do you guys think of this news? Let's start with Christian.
This is weird. The Pirates of the Caribbean is in a strange place right now. I think the franchise is getting a little creaky. And I want to say, if I remember correctly, Paul and I talked together in a previous episode how much we have liked the series. Hans Zimmer, his music is out of control in that. I mean, his theme for Pirates of the Caribbean is so good. Everything about it is hummable. It's thumping. It's, Zimmer being awesome as usual and doing such a great job. But the last movie was forgettable to me. I liked it, watched it, forgettable. It's kind of like, if Johnny Depp leaves, do you guys really care? Does anybody care if he's gone? You do care? Okay, I mean, it's like, yes. The Jack Sparrow character is great. I'll let you talk about him more because you just said you care. So I want to make sure you get the chance to talk about him. I like the Jack Sparrow character. I think I'm done with it, though. I question, though, without him, though, I'm torn. Is it like, do we really give a shit, or is he truly the heart and soul of the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise? And without him, they have nowhere else to go. Do we at least have to have him moving the franchise forward? But Karen Gillan's version is a reboot, and now this Margot Robbie thing, we're not. Now look, I'll watch almost anything with her because I just want to stare at her and drink her in any chance I get. I don't fucking care. I love Margot Robbie, but I have a huge crush on her. But besides from me wanting to watch her all the time, I'm confused as what they're trying to do. Like, is this set in the same universe or whatever? So I guess we just have to wait a little bit more to kind of find out what's happening. Right now, it's probably too soon to tell. But they probably have to do something, because if I read the numbers correctly, I think this last movie made the second lowest next to the original one. So the movies have grown on themselves as the years went on, and then the last two kind of started to dip, and then this one didn't make as much. Even I think it only made more money than Curse of the Black Pearl, which was the first. So they have to, Disney's money, Disney's family, that's what they think. So they got to start thinking about what they want to do for the future. Bringing in people of color, bringing in women probably would be a good idea now. Let's do this now. This is a perfect opportunity. Just, make it work. Don't do it stupidly. Don't just do it because you want to throw a movie out there and then it's a piece of shit. Do it right. Do it right. If you're going to do that, then do it right. Maybe you have to have Johnny Depp as that. But I'll bring it to Paul. Like, for me, if Johnny Depp says he's not part of it, I don't know if that's going to make the difference on whether or not I'm going to go see this. So, on you.
Yeah, it's not going to make a difference for me necessarily whether or not I go see it. I mean, I'll go see this regardless. I still like the Pirates movies. I agree with you. The last one was forgettable, although I still entertaining enough.
Yeah, it's still entertaining. Yeah.
I was, I'm probably in the minority. I thought 4 was better than 2 and 3.
4
personally,
wasn't bad.
I liked 4. So. But I'll still watch them. Now, when I say I care about Johnny Depp, I just don't want him erased from the franchise. But if they decide to go, if it's like, I think his time as the lead has kind of come to an end. Like, it can't be all Johnny Depp, but I think he'd still make a great supporting character, or a minimum play enough of a role to pass it on to the new lead going forward. And if that's Karen Gillan, or if that's they said. As I say, they still haven't confirmed, right? It's still not confirmed whether Depp's in this or not. So, Lupe, you're interpreting that as he's not in it. I'm not as convinced. Time will tell. But I think it would be good to have him at least pass the torch at minimum in a movie. But if they go in a completely different direction, reboot it entirely, I'll still watch. I mean, I'm actually more a fan of Karen Gillan than I am of Margot Robbie personally. But I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around the Karen Gillan one being a reboot and the Margot Robbie one being separate from the reboot, and they're bringing them both out roughly in the same window. I'm sure there's going to be some more clarity that comes with that at some point, and
it's the Pirates multiverse, man.
Yeah, I don't know. I struggle to accept that they're going to start a rebooted Pirates multiverse. I have a feeling that there's some clarity to come, and it'll make sense in the end. I mean, that doesn't seem like a Disney thing to do, right? But you guys know me. I'm a Disney fan, with the exception of what the MCU's become, and I like the parks. I like the ride. I'm happy to have new life breathed into that franchise, and I'll be there almost certainly, regardless of what this turns into. So I'll leave it at that. Lupe, what are your thoughts on this?
All right, let me start by saying you guys are supposed to have watched Black Sails by now. But, oh my goodness, you guys are just...
I watched half of the first episode, Lupe. I liked it, and my wife said, I'm not watching this, and then I haven't gotten back to it yet.
See, that's the problem I ran into, too. I watched the first 3 episodes, and she's not into it, so I got to watch it by myself.
Yeah, it's everybody knows. Everybody that's seen Black Sails says it. You have to get through season 1. You just have to just do your due diligence, get through season 1, and, that's your introduction, and then it takes off from there. But
for Lupe.
there are badass like female pirates in Pirates of the Caribbean, in Black Sails. I apologize. Mm-hmm. So imagine Margot Robbie and Christina Hudson just making a pirate movie about Anne Bonny, one of the most notorious, wicked, cruel, cunning pirates ever, and her motley of pirates. But they had to come into the Pirates of the Caribbean and do this. Oh, we're going to do a female one. And look at Christina Hudson's writing. She wrote Birds of Prey. Mm-hmm. She also did Bumblebee. She tends to be
Flash.
Quite clunky and clumsy with her whole, women are better than men, women don't need men thing. And while that's fine or whatever, I think that they're courting controversy. This is not an intelligent way to make female stories. I love female action stories or whatever. I want more female representation, but it shouldn't be this situation where you're doing this whole men are horrible thing. Women are going to take over all the roles that men had. You can make an original pirate movie, having women. Margot Robbie's a big name. You make a good movie, people are going to go see it. It's going to make a lot of money. What you're going to have in this situation is you're going to have another situation like Ghostbusters. Like, you're going to have people who are actively going to hate this, are actively going to be against it, and there is entirely no need for this. You do not need to be courting controversy. You do not need to make things more difficult for yourself. You do not need to take the path of least resistance when there is something that's more natural, something that's more sensible, and something that you can do. As Paul said, I'm 100% sure that the Margot Robbie one is not going to have Jack Sparrow. There is no way it's going to, because when I know Christina Hudson's track record, she does not operate like that. There's little finesse or grace or style to the way she tells these stories. She's very brutish, very clumsy, very, straightforward, and we're going to have a situation where you're going to have this movie come out. It's either going to meet resistance or it's not going to do well. And then you're going to get people calling people misogynists and woman haters. That is the cycle. It's just going to continue. And to me, it's annoying. Like, I would have loved for them to be like, we're making a pirate movie and it's going to be on the life of Anne Bonny. I would have flipped. I would have been like, oh my God, I can't wait for this. But this sort of clumsy thing that they're putting together, to me, it just looks like it's going to. It doesn't seem smart. It doesn't look like it's going to. It doesn't look like it's going to be smart. And as for Jack Sparrow, I love the character of Jack Sparrow. I like the last Pirates movie. Was it the best thing ever? No, but I remember I watched it about the same time. I think it was about the same time that Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 came out, and it was better than Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Easily for me, because I almost walked out of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 twice. I was in the theater for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, and nobody was laughing, apart from one person who was, I think she had issues, because she was laughing at everything, including a bit that was supposed to be sad, and she laughed at it, and everybody looked at her like, yeah, you're not okay. But in the Pirates of the Caribbean, the entire crowd was like really into the movie and laughing and, you know, excited and stuff like that. That's my own personal experience. Anecdotal, but it is what it is. So I don't think it was the worst thing ever. I would like him to come back if they want to incorporate other characters, female, whatever, they should. If they want to do spin-offs where there's a universe and then characters go off and do their own thing, that's a brilliant idea that you can do. But Johnny Depp, he has put in so much work, so much time, and built up this brand. He should not be unceremoniously pushed out. He should be given his respect for the work that he has done. And also, when you do that, you're going to create goodwill with the audience. Like, that's one thing that creators need to understand. When you make fans have attachments to characters and they gain deep love and deep respect for the characters, you cannot unceremoniously and brutally treat those characters. You have to find a good way to pass the baton to someone else, or else you're going to get backlash. That's just what's going to happen. It's because of how well you've built up those characters. So I think creators really need to start to become more smart about these things and don't create problems for yourself where you don't need to create problems. A female Pirates movie, awesome. Let's do it. Just make sure that you segue it well. Give Johnny Depp the send-off that he deserves. You know, do not denigrate or downplay his role or just, you know, make a movie that doesn't have him in it. It's not the right thing to do, because Johnny Depp, the reason why, I mean, this is someone who's going through a tumultuous, you know, personal time. You know, someone accused him of a heinous crime and his name was dragged through the mud, and there's all this stuff going on. And this would just be like piling insults on top of injury. But that's what I have to say about it. I think it's a horrible idea. I just think from top to bottom, it's not something that I would have greenlit if I was a studio exec. I would have steered them another way. I think that they should have made a female Pirates movie, and it would have been kick-ass, because Margot Robbie as a pirate would have been awesome, and I don't need to see it under the Pirates of the Caribbean moniker. That's just me.
Yeah, and I think you also raise a good point. I regardless of how I may personally or anybody else may feel about Johnny Depp, I think if you completely ignore what he did for the franchise, especially, you know, bringing that, he really wanted to make them seem like they were rock stars of the era, right? Like, and that's kind of how he did. He modeled everything after that. His mannerisms, everything is all supposed to be like that. And it's supposed to be that very Keith Richards, you know, esque kind of actions and the way he speaks. And I agree, no matter how you may feel, if you ignore it and don't at least acknowledge or maybe have him do some sort of segue, pass the baton, whatever, I think you do slap the face of people that really did enjoy this franchise from the beginning.
Yeah. Well, those are our 3 topics for the day. Guys, hop in the comment section or hit us up on Twitter and tell us, like, what do you think? Do you think that this Margot Robbie and Christina Hudson Pirates of the Caribbean reboot spinoff is a good idea? Do you prefer the one that's from the Chernobyl creator and it's going to star Karen Gillan? And also, what do you think of Ray Fisher's comments on Joss Whedon and also Zack Snyder's Q&A? Hit us up on Twitter. We talk back. And with that being said, we're going into our coming soon section. coming soon is where we react instantaneously to the hottest movie trailers that dropped in the past week. And we have a trilogy of trailers. We have an American Pickle, we have The Tax Collector, and the second trailer for Netflix's The Old Guard. So let's start with An American Pickle. It comes out on the 6th of August this year. It's a comedy that's going to be on HBO Max, an HBO Max original. The director is Brandon Trust. He was formerly a cinematographer. I think it's his first feature-length film. He was a cinematographer for The Disaster Artist and This Is the End. The film stars Seth Rogen and Sarah Snook. Sarah Snook was in Succession. She was also in Predestination. And the synopsis is thus: an immigrant worker falls into a vat of pickles and is brined for 100 years. The brine preserves him perfectly, and when he emerges in present-day Brooklyn, he finds that he hasn't aged a day. And he meets up with one of his descendants, and hijinks and shenanigans ensue. So let's start with Christian, since you're already giggling. What do you think of An American Pickle?
The premise for this is so friggin' absurd. It's just so stupid. And I'm one of those people, I got to admit, that I've kind of been done with Seth Rogen for a little bit. I've just been over him. And then my wife and I just watched Long Shot with him and Charlize Theron.
Just saw that. Oh.
It's good.
Yeah,
I
it is.
liked it. I liked it, and I liked him in it. I mean, I liked her in it too, but I liked him in it. And I got to admit, I was pleasantly surprised by this trailer, because when I read the synopsis, I was like, you got to be kidding me. This is going to be just such typical crap. And it was funny, and it hit the right moments of heart. And it looked kind of like his great-grandson, which I guess is supposed to be a computer guy. So, and Herschel's never going to understand that his great-grandson works in computers. That's just not going to happen. He looks like he's more like, Seth Rogen playing Seth Rogen. Mm-hmm. But in the moments where he was Herschel, he actually seemed really funny, and I kind of liked the fish out of water aspect they were going for. The thing about this, I'll give it to you guys this way. If this was coming out in theaters, forget COVID for a minute, because I'm not going to see any movie for a while. If it was coming out in theaters, I don't know if this is a date night movie with my wife and I. If we were going out with a couple other people to go see it, I don't know. But the fact that it's coming out on HBO Max, different story. So, absolutely. I mean, this is really cool that this is one of those, Lupe, just to bring it full circle, you were talking about, like, look, they're looking at their streaming service. They don't care if something's going to get released in physical or whatever. They need people to get on board with their service. That's what they need. They need people to sign up. This is a funny movie. You got marquee people playing in it. This might be the way to do it if you make stuff like this. This is the kind of stuff you probably have to do. So definitely was pleasantly surprised by it. It made me smile, made me laugh. I'll watch this sucker. I absolutely will.
Yeah. Paul, what do you think?
Yeah, you know what, Lupe, you and I, when we went through the list of upcoming HBO Max titles, this was one that I think we both thought had some potential. But this is kind of what I was picturing based on the synopsis, and it looks pretty good, maybe a little better than I was expecting. That being said, like Christian, I don't think this would have brought me out to the theater. I don't know that this alone would be enough to incentivize me to subscribe to HBO Max, but they're going to get my money with a Snyder Cut, and if I've already got the subscription, I'll watch this, right? So I'll check it out. I'm not blown away by it, but it looks funny. It looks well made. I haven't seen... oh gosh, the one you guys were just talking about. My wife actually recommended it to me as well. Long Shot. Yeah, I've had a few people tell me it's good, and it's on my list of things that I wanted to give a shot to, but I can't make myself. But I'm sure if I sit down and watch it, I'll probably like it. This looks good though. I think it looks entertaining, and if I'm not mistaken, there's only a limited number of episodes of this one too, right? Like this isn't. Do you know how many episodes there are in this one? I have to look it up. But
I'm not 100% sure, but like you said, it still is one of those things that, like, for somebody like me who's got HBO Max, it enhances my experience. It's cool because right now the stuff I've been watching on HBO Max is legacy stuff. It's nothing that's like a premiere. I'm not watching the stuff that's they made. This is something that they're making. So for me, it just enhances it. But the question is, does that make a guy like Paul want to sign up for the service? That's the question.
And the answer is, I'm not going to sign up for this, but it is something I'd watch if I have the service. So
Gotcha.
if they want to keep me, then Yeah, sure. It's a nice bonus, but not incentive on its own. So I'll leave it at that. Lupe,
I think in American Pickle, I think it's a movie.
It's just one movie. Yeah. Okay.
is it? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's just one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I didn't
for
think it
some
was a
reason-
show. I thought it was
Is that
that's
what
why
it is?
I mentioned
Okay.
theaters.
For
But
some reason, I was thinking it was broken up into a few episodes. Oh, it's a single movie. Then okay, fine. Yeah, then yeah, I'd watch it. Sure, but I'm not going to sign up for it. You know, it's if I already have the subscription, then I'll watch it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's interesting for me. I actually like Seth Rogen as a comedian. I find his comedy. I was about to say tasteful. Okay, I like his taste in comedy for some weird reason. I really like the long shot. I always find his characters endearing in a way. So yeah, he's actually one of my favorite comedians, although he tends to do the same thing over and over again. I like his style of comedy. And if this was coming out in theaters, I would have gone to see it in theaters. But the funny thing is that this would not have incentivized me to sign up for a subscription service. Not this alone.
Yeah.
Not this alone. So that's quite interesting how that works. However, it looks very good. I'm especially impressed with the cinematography and the production value. It looks like an actual movie that could be in theaters. Like really good color grading, really good costuming, all that sort of thing. So for this to be an HBO Max original film, it's a really good forebearer of things to come, of the kind of quality that we can see on the streamer. This is not, for example, like I always say this, and we'll talk about one that's coming up. I think most Netflix originals look cheap. They just have like a cheap, glossy, it's kind of like a modern day generic TV look to them. But this looks actually cinematic for something that doesn't have, like massive special effects or what have you. So I think that was one thing that impressed me the most. It actually looks cinematic and of high quality. And to be sincere, I didn't watch the entire trailer because by the time I got about 60% in, I was like, I'm sold. I'm done. I don't want to know anything else that happens in it. I do enjoy these comedies where an actor is interacting with their own doppelganger self. It's always entertaining to me. So I'm looking forward to this one on the 6th of August. I think this was a very good trailer. I can't say it completely blew my mind, but as Paul said, it was one of the ones that piqued my interest on the streamer, and the trailer did even more. So I am looking forward to this one without doubt. So let's go on to our next trailer, and this one's The Tax Collector, and it's coming out just a day after An American Pickle. It's by David Ayer, released on August 7th, if I didn't say that. It stars Shia LaBeouf, George Lopez, Bobby Soto, and this one it's about two enforcers for a crime lord who face an uncertain future when an old rival reappears. So let's start with Christian. Christian, what do you think of David Ayer's The Tax Collector?
Now I'm a crime movie guy. I mean, I like The Departed and Goodfellas and L.A. Confidential and take your pick. I love crime movies. I think they're good. I have not been the hugest fan of Mr. LaBeouf. But did you guys ever see Fury by David Ayer? And Shia LaBeouf was in that. Good movie. Yeah. Good movie. Right. And I was pleasantly surprised by that, and my opinion on him started changing with that movie. And I think I read somewhere he had a tooth pulled on that movie, and David Ayer was running around saying that he got his chest tattooed for this movie. So this, I completely pleasantly surprised by this movie. And it's interesting, by the way, because I think this movie is we don't know what's going on with theaters, but it's supposed to be released in theaters and on demand. And so it'll be released in both. So you'll have multiple ways to get this movie. The action sequences look crisp. Some of the violence looked scary. I don't know if you guys were like some of the scenes where he was pointing people's guns at people's heads. Mm-hmm. He had a gun in that guy's mouth till the end of the trailer. The violence seemed very real and very frightening. at the same time. And that's what a crime movie should be. Some of the, like the violence in The Departed doesn't take away from the movie. In many ways, that's the world that they're in. And it's actually supports the movie. So this movie didn't just look like stylized action violence. It looked like that scary kind of, oh my God, that's the world they're living in violence. And of course, he's defending his family at the same time. So it looks like there's a whole nother side to this. So was intrigued by this one. I will not be going into theaters, I don't think, by August. So I don't know exactly what video on demand services this is going to come out on, but I'll show the trailer to my wife if she's into it. Then I'm definitely we'll wind up renting it or grabbing it and seeing if we can watch it on demand. I found that I like Ayer. I can't help it. I find it, the more I see the way he interacts online and everything, and the movies he's made, I've liked. So this is definitely one that, for me, a lot of people said they saw the original trailer. I didn't. This was my first time watching anything from it. So for me, I was really like, wow, I was turned on by this. I don't know if it was my favorite trailer of the night, but for me, it was probably the most surprising one. Yeah.
Oh, what do you think?
Yeah, I like this one. I'm not, so opposite of Christian, I'm not typically a crime movie guy, and I do find Shia LaBeouf intriguing. There's something about him I like watching. I don't know why. I like him. And I like David Ayer. Not just because of Suicide Squad. I like what I've seen of him online. And then it is also partially because you can see elements of what I would have liked from Suicide Squad, and you feel for him because he got screwed, in the whole, inner mutiny turmoil at DC, right? So I think that gives me some goodwill towards this film, but this, I should just qualify when I say I don't like crime movies. I'm tired of mobster, like the classic mobster gangster heist movies. Yeah. But this is a little bit more different, a little more fresh still, and there's an intensity to it that I really like, and I think that's you're looking for some kind of emotional response to these movies, and I got that from this trailer. I got that intense feeling of sort of impending dread from the escalating violence and an uncomfortableness, which is what I like with these movies. And it reminded me a little bit of Training Day, right? And Ayer wrote Training Day. I don't believe he directed that one. Did he? Did he just write it?
It was directed by John Singleton, I think.
Oh, okay, yeah. So a little bit of, and I didn't see End of Watch or Harsh Times, but it just had that intensity that I like in this type of film, and I thought LaBeouf looked good in the role. I think the other characters fit the roles they were playing, and I just like the aesthetic of it. I'll support this one. I'm not going to go to theaters, but I'll pay for it on video on demand to support Ayer and to support this kind of filmmaking that doesn't look neutered or watered down. It looks intense, and that's kind of the thing I'm looking for in movies. So. Look, I'm excited by this.
Yeah, I echo you guys' sentiments. Pleasantly surprised. I mean, David Ayer he's a quality director. Mm-hmm. Anything he makes, quote unquote, because we know that Suicide Squad was heavily tampered with. Anything he makes is going to be of good quality, and very astute observation by Paul that it does remind of his. He's an auteur director, so he speaks from a signature point of view, a specific point of view. So it does remind of Training Day, it's kind of like a modern day buddy cop. But when you say buddy cop, it's more like a partner cop crime. So you have Training Day with Denzel and Ethan Hawke, and then you have End of Watch as well, with I think Hernandez might be his name, and the other guy. And then even Fury, although it's not only two characters, it's like an ensemble, and you have that interaction. So this one seems like kind of like that, but the bad guys. Basically, you flip the buddy cop, and it's the buddy mob enforcers. So I thought that paradigm flip, that flip of the coin, is an interesting perspective to view his storytelling from. Shia LaBeouf, he looks intense, and he's been on a tear the past year or so.
He was up for awards, prestige awards, and prestige notoriety last year with a couple of his movies. He did Honey Boy and another one, and it was like real actors acting, like real thespian type of stuff. So I'm happy to see him continuing in that vein. I reminding people that Shia LaBeouf he's a prolific actor. Don't think about, when people think about it, they think about Transformers and Indiana Jones with the
and that was my mistake, Lupe. I'm being honest. I think Fury was 14 or 15. Was it 2014 or 15? I can't remember which, but that's where I started to change. My opinion on him changed because I was never a fan because that's what I focused on. I focused on him playing Mutt and Sam. Those were that's what I focused on, and I just didn't like him, and I was pleasantly surprised in recent years.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to this one. Definitely going to be watching it. We're definitely going to review it for you here on the film Exiles. So let's move on to our next trailer, and this one is the final one for the day. It's The Old Guard. It's the second trailer, and The Old Guard comes out on the 10th of July, which is Friday of this week. It's directed by Gina Prince by the Wood, stars Charlize Theron, Chiwetel Ejiofor, Kiki Lane. She was in If Beale Street Could Talk. Marwan Kenzari. He was Aladdin's Jafar in the Guy Ritchie quote-unquote movie. Matthias Schoenaerts, if I spelled that correctly. He was in Red Sparrow as the kind of villain. So the synopsis for The Old Guards is based on a graphic novel by Greg Rucka, who's famous for writing Wonder Woman comics at DC. A group of mercs, all centuries old immortals with Wolverine-esque ability to heal themselves, discover someone is on to their secrets. Now they must fight to protect their freedom. So I'll start. As I said, I'm going to reiterate that I think that a lot of Netflix originals look cheap, especially the ones like shot on digital. If the color grading is not done right, they just look cheap, and it has to do with the fact that Netflix is always in the way of creators shooting on digital. Even Spike Lee for The Five Bloods, he had to fight with them to allow him to shoot some 16mm footage and shoot some stuff on film for the flashback scenes. The rare case where they've allowed film was Scorsese for The Irishman, but of course that was a special case. But usually they restrict their creators to shooting on digital, and it tends to produce this sort of generic looking, cheap looking footage that doesn't look cinematic or have that sort of event feel to it. And while I like a lot of the elements for this, obviously I love Charlize Theron, super hot action lady, great, phenomenal actress. Chiwetel Ejiofor is actually my favorite actor working today. My favorite, like, youngish kind of actor, not counting, the old gods like Denzel and Tom Cruise, what have you. And the cast just looks good overall. The action looks good. The story looks very intriguing. But the look of it's just, I can't get past that. I cannot get past the look of it. It just, Netflix needs to do a better job. Apple TV, their stuff looks so amazing. Amazon Prime, it varies, but at least depending on the creator, there's room for them to flex their muscle. HBO Max, we just talked about An American Pickle and how good it looks. Zack Snyder's also said he's working on film. Obviously, the Snyder Cut of Justice League was already shot on film, so the additional stuff is going to be shot on film too. So yeah, that's of great concern to me. Also of concern to me is the rollout of trailers and marketing for it hasn't been very strong. The only reason why we're talking about this is because, this is what we do. We hunt down trailers and we analyze them and react to them. But if I was just like a regular person who's not like massively into film or whatever, I would never have heard of this. Obviously, I would have Netflix, so it will be advertised on there as they've been doing. But I wish that they did a better job of promoting events. I feel like this is one that we'll just have to try to catch some viral energy. But I thought the second trailer was decent. I didn't finish watching it because I felt like this one was a desperate trailer where they show you everything and just beg you, please, please, please watch it, please, please. So I stopped about halfway through, but I kind of liked it. I did, and I'm looking forward to seeing it on Friday. So, guys, what do you think?
I'm torn a little bit here, only because like this is up my alley. Immortals. It's based on an Image comic series. It's actually a mini series that they've done a couple of reboots recently as well. So now they have a couple of other stories that have come out. But it is based on a comics mini series, not a full blown series that's been running. And I like the story. I like the tale. I've heard about this in the works now for a while. You've already mentioned Charlize Theron. Holy shit, she gets a big fat holy shit with almost everything that she does, and she's one of the few that you almost want to watch everything that she does. And just based on that and what they're talking about and how they've tried to keep they're a group of mercenaries and they've tried to keep their secret keep their identity secret. She's starting to kind of almost be like done with this world that she's had to live in, and now you get this younger person that they take on that is just discovering her powers, and somebody is about to blow up their secret and all that. So some of it is ho-hum comic book, but at the same time I really liked it. And it's cool because in a lot of ways with the pause right now in the cinematic experience, this is probably what you need, right? You need the streaming services to give us something new, to give us original content, whether it's this or HBO Max or whatever. But where I'm torn is exactly what you said. Netflix has done a shit job in their marketing. Terrible job. We talked about their Michael Bay movie and everything. Just terrible job. Their marketing has been bad. And the other side to that is that as much as I liked this, as much as I'm excited about the storyline and it looks fun and it looks just like cool and slick, it lacks something, and we're missing that in this environment. Even before COVID, the three of us were constantly having conversations about like how in North America the number of ticket sales were starting to drop and all that, and was it the streaming services that were going to have to pick up the slack? Well, okay, if you're going to do that, you really need this stuff to look better. It needs to look more cinematic. But then again, it's going to be on your HD TV. I don't know, man. I'm all over the place with this. But I'm wondering if like they're all over the place with it as well. But HBO can give us prestige content, right? So that's where I'm torn. I am definitely excited about this. I'm watching it. Absolutely going to watch it. It's right up my alley. And the actors are right up my alley. The story is right up my alley. But it's lacking something. And Netflix continues to lack something. And I just, with the amount of money that I know that they can spend and the number of subscribers they got, they could do better. They could. So I'll leave it there.
I agree. Paul, what do you think?
Yeah, so I'm going to echo some of your same sentiments. And Lupe, I think you did a great job of diagnosing and articulating what the problem was here, because I watched this trailer wanting to like it, not knowing anything about it, wanting to like it, knowing that I like Charlize Theron, liking that they were going for a more serious take on a graphic novel, but something was off, and it's definitely the look. Also, maybe I was distracted, maybe I was rushing watching this. I didn't know what the hell was going on. I had to read the synopsis again to figure out what was going on in this. I mean, I got that they were immortal, and I got that they'd met before in the past, but the whole idea that someone was hunting them and trying to take their power, and I don't know, I just it just didn't work really for me. Something was off about this trailer. I'll still give it a chance, but it's not something I'm going to rush to watch. And I guess I was hoping for more. Something just didn't grab me the way I expected it would, given the subject matter. So this comes out the same day as Greyhound. I'm watching Greyhound. Before I watch this, this is going to go on my watch list on Netflix. It's intriguing enough that I'll click the little check mark to add it, or the plus button to add it to my watch list, and I'll get around to giving it a chance. But to me, this is the kind of thing that, maybe one night when I'm, looking for something to watch, I'll watch 30 minutes of it, and if it grabs me, I'll finish it, and if it doesn't, I won't. So that's sort of a meh interest level for me, but I'll give it a try.
Well, I guess Netflix won't be too happy about that. They better start promoting Army of the Dead super heavy, because that movie better blow up. So, guys, yeah, those are our trailers for the day. I want to know, what is your favorite trailer? Which one had the most impact on you? Christian, why don't you start us off?
The one that I want to see the most is The Old Guard, but the trailer that impacted me the most was Tax Collector. I didn't see. I think this was the second trailer. I did not see the first one, and I remember seeing over the last couple of days, it was trending on Twitter and everything. So today, when you guys wanted to talk about it tonight, was the first time I saw it. And I go back to what I said before, and I'll shut up. It was just impactful. Like, the violence seems so fucking real, and like I said, there was just this frightening aspect to it that you don't get. Like, Training Day has that moment, if you guys remember, where he's got the guy's about to kill Ethan Hawke, and he's got the shotgun to his face, and he's screaming, saying, like, I saved a little girl, right? You find out that it's a guy's cousin and everything. There's realism in that moment that really, like, almost makes you sick to your stomach. Because can you imagine being in that moment where you have a shotgun to your head?
That's exactly the scene, Christian. When I brought up the comparison with Training Day, that's exactly the scene I was thinking of, where he's in the house with Tuco, whatever Tuco's name was in that movie, right? That's exactly what I was thinking of. Yeah.
I feel like I'm talking too much, so I apologize. I'll throw it back to you guys. But yeah, that was definitely for me. Because of that, I think that's why that was the most impactful trailer for me.
Okay. Paul, what about you?
Yeah. Which one most impactful, and which one do I want to see is Tax Collector by a long shot. It's not even close. It's got the intensity and immersion that I'm looking for, and I'm excited to see it. So not much more to say on that one.
Well, for me, I'd say on both counts, it would be An American Pickle, actually. I don't love any of the trailers, but I don't detest or dislike any of the trailers either. For Old Guard, I have been looking forward to it for a long time because of the source material. I like that kind of sort of fantasy storytelling, kind of like superhero sort of thing. But the trailers have been underwhelming to me, to be sincere, and the look is quite a letdown. So the trailers haven't moved the needle for me at all. But for An American Pickle, it actually made me a lot more excited about it, and I'm really looking forward to it. For the Tax Collector, it kind of seems like more of the same David Ayer stuff. So we'll see. I will watch it, and I did like it, and I think it's going to be interesting, but it didn't move the dial too much for me, and I didn't necessarily love it. But An American Pickle on all fronts, I'm quite excited about it. Yeah. So there you have it. Our episode of ENN for the day, number 34, is all done. That was quite a marathon. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I hope you enjoyed the company, doing whatever it is you do, whether you're at the gym, whether you're at your commute to or fro from work. So before we leave, let's give the people our social media so that they can contact us. Christian, say goodbye to the people and tell them where they can find you.
It was good talking with you guys tonight. I know it was long, so thanks for everybody that stuck it out. Keep your social distancing up, please. Especially in the United States, we are not even close to being through this yet. So please take care of yourselves and stay safe and watch Hamilton. You can find me on Twitter and on Instagram at chart6363.
And Paul.
Yeah, enjoyed talking to you guys as well. Lupe, thanks for indulging me in an extended Snyder Cut conversation tonight. Always a treat. And yeah, stay safe. Hope everyone enjoys this. Let us know your comments. Give us your feedback on Twitter, YouTube. We've said we're happy to discuss and engage. And as always, you can reach me on Twitter at _Paul_P.
Yep. And I have been yours truly, Lupe. You can find me on Twitter at LiveLoveLupe and on VERO at LiveLoveLupe as well. Thank you very much for listening. Stay safe, guys. We're going to come at you with another episode of ENN. That'll be number 35 next week, so stay tuned. Send us messages, talk to us. Let's interact. Subscribe to the channel. Follow us on Twitter at the Film Exiles as well. And until next time, remember, stay exiled.